Chapter 109. In the driver's seat was the little beauty, Tang Tang, whom Yang Cheng didn't bid farewell to just now. At this moment, Tang Tang wasn't as bright as usual. She said with a bit of fear and guilt, "Uncle, get in the car. There aren't any taxis here. I'll send you back." Yang Cheng didn't argue. After opening the car door and sitting in the front passenger seat, he asked, "Can I have a cigarette? I'll open the window." Tang Tang immediately nodded her head vigorously, as if she wanted Yang Cheng to smoke. "Thank you," Yang Cheng said faintly as he pressed down the window. He took out a pack of low-quality cigarettes that cost 2 yuan and an unbranded plastic lighter from his pocket and lit it for himself. Tang Tang asked softly as she drove slowly, "Uncle, smoke a better cigarette. This kind of cigarette is too harmful to your body. Also, your lighter isn't safe. I'll buy you a genuine Zippo lighter next time. I guarantee you'll look cool. A good cigarette doesn't smell like smoke. If the lighter is broken, I'll buy a new one. 1 yuan for one. It'll be cheaper than a Zippo, even if I get 100 of them. Don't you worry about losing it," Yang Cheng said unhurriedly as he looked at the seascape in the distance. Tang Tang asked with a bit of grievance, "Uncle, you're still angry, right? You don't even want to look at me anymore?" "Angry? Why should I be angry?" Yang Cheng turned around and asked. "Dad asked me to call you over, but he's not polite at all. He even suspects that you're a bad person. I know you're kind-hearted, but Dad is just like that. He doesn't trust others. I can't do anything about it," Tang Tang said angrily. He was still fine a few years ago, but after becoming that lousy secretary for 2 years, he's become more and more outrageous. Yang Cheng chuckled softly as he listened to the little girl complaining about her dad. It didn't matter if it was true or not. Tang Tang became even more anxious when she saw Yang Cheng's indifferent look. "Uncle, I was wrong, okay? Don't be angry. I'll treat you to a meal. You can eat wherever you want. I'll apologize to you, okay? I really didn't do it on purpose. I didn't know that Dad and the others would actually make a move on you, but I'm just a weak girl. Even if I wanted to stop them, I wouldn't be able to. Uncle, don't be like this. Scolding me is better than being silent." Yang Cheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't think anything at all, but this girl thought a lot of nonsense on her own. "I say, Tang Tang, what do you see that I'm angry? I wasn't angry when they attacked me just now. I was just a little annoyed. To put it bluntly, your dad and his group of bodyguards aren't worthy of my anger." Tang Tang asked suspiciously, "Really? Uncle, aren't you mad at me? Why would I be mad at you?" Yang Cheng rolled his eyes. Instantly, Tang Tang's face revealed a joyous smile, like a blooming flower in spring, like a greedy little bear who found a jar of sweet honey. If it wasn't for the steering wheel in her hand, she would have probably pounced on Yang Cheng and kissed his face. "I knew that uncle is the best." Yang Cheng waved his hand. "Don't be too agitated. I haven't finished speaking." Tang Tang was stunned. She blinked her eyes cutely. "Didn't Uncle say that you weren't angry anymore?" "I'm not angry, but that doesn't mean that today's incident didn't affect me at all," Yang Cheng said lightly. "I can't afford to provoke your family. Or rather, I find them too annoying. In order to not have any dealings with your dad and the rest, I think we should pretend that we don't know each other. You go to school, I go to my class, and we should stop contacting each other." Yang Cheng didn't want to be suspected by Fong jumping all day. Today's fight had basically ruined their relationship. If he were to have any dealings with Tang Tang, no matter how innocent he was, it would still be the yellow mud in his pants. Even if he didn't try SH*T, it would still be SH*T. It was hard to argue. When Tang Tang heard that, she suddenly stepped on the brakes. Screech. The car suddenly stopped by the side of the road. The inertia caused both of them to rush forward. Yang Cheng turned his head and asked in confusion, "What are you doing? Why did you stop all of a sudden?" Tang Tang didn't speak. She held onto the steering wheel with her head lowered. Her hair that was let down covered most of her pretty face, and her expression couldn't be seen. Gradually, the girl's thin shoulders trembled slightly. A few drops of crystal-clear tears fell on her fair and slender thighs. She actually started sobbing. Yang Cheng's scalp went numb. What was going on? Why was she crying again? Why was she crying all of a sudden? "Hey, girl, don't cry. If you want to cry, at least let me know." When it's raining or hailing, the TV station will give a weather forecast. Why is it that your tears can't be prevented? Yang Chang said dejectedly. Tang Tang slowly raised her head. Because of the tears, the hidden charm on her young face was suddenly released. It was a charm that could shake one's heart. After the car stopped in P gear, Tang Tang wiped the tears on her face and sobbed, "Uncle, you can scold me, hit me a few times, but don't leave me. Don't ignore me, okay? Why would I hit you or scold you for no reason?" Yang Chang smiled bitterly. "I'm afraid that your dad is too calculative. He might come to find trouble with me in the future. You'll be stuck between your dad and me. Want to be difficult? That won't happen." Tang Tang seemed to be grasping at straws. She immediately said, "I've decided that from tomorrow onwards, I'll move to Mom's place and won't be with Dad anymore. In this case, if Dad comes to find trouble with Uncle again, I won't care about anything and I won't know anything. Dad is no match for Uncle anyway. I won't care about anything." Yang Chung asked doubtfully, "You're moving to live with Mom? Your mom and Dad don't live together?" Tang Tang suddenly blushed and said shyly, "I know my mom and dad, but they are not husband and wife." "What do you mean?" Tang Tang rubbed the corner of her clothes with both hands. As if she had made a great decision, she raised her head and said, "Uncle, I'll tell you a secret. You have to keep it a secret from me. Just treat it as a little secret between you and me. Okay?" The girl's eyes were as clear as white crystals, making it hard for people to refuse her pure beauty. Yang Chung felt a slight ripple in his heart. He didn't expect that the girl, who had a bad first impression, would have such a touching look. He nodded subconsciously and let Tang Tang speak. Tang Tang pursed her lips and took a deep breath before saying, "I'm actually a test tube baby." "Test tube baby?" Yang Chung didn't expect this situation. He thought it was because of Tong Tong's parents' divorce, but the truth that Tang Tang said was much more powerful than he imagined. The so-called test tube baby was, of course, not a child born in a test tube. It was just a scientific method to combine the reproductive cells of a man and a woman in a test tube and send them to the mother's body for development and growth. It was also a child born after 10 months of pregnancy. However, after such a child was born, there would often be some congenital defects such as heart disease and so on. Also, because of their differences and family problems, it was easy to have a headache like autism and other medical problems. In any case, the technology of test tube baby was not mature enough. So in the whole country of Huaxia, test tube babies were not known by most people. Even if they knew, they basically kept their mouths shut. The children born from such medical technology often had to bear too much moral pressure. Yes, so although my father is my father, he is actually just a friend with my mother. They haven't even held hands, let alone like other couples. After Tang Tang finished speaking, she paid attention to Yang Cheng's expression and found that Yang Cheng's expression was strange. He was staring straight at her. She only thought that Yang Cheng thought that her birth was too strange, and her face suddenly showed a trace of sadness. Tang Tang forced a smile and lowered her head. "I knew it. Uncle, you must think that I'm a freak. In fact, I don't care. So what if I'm a freak? Anyway, I've grown so big, and test tube babies are still living well." Yang Cheng smiled and suddenly reached out to touch the back of the girl's head. "I didn't say anything, and you already made a conclusion for me. Actually, to tell you the truth, whether you're a test tube baby or an ordinary child, I don't care at all." "Really?" Tong Tong's eyes were a little more lively, and she raised her head. "I'm not interested in lying to comfort you." Yang Cheng scolded with a smile. "Don't think that I'll give you special treatment because you're a test tube baby. No way." Tang Tang smiled through her tears and hit Yang Cheng's arm. "Uncle, you're so annoying. You made me cry. Why didn't you say so earlier? My heart almost broke." "It's not a big deal. You're just a test tube baby. Although the birth process is a little weird, you're still a child that your parents gave birth to together." Yang Cheng smiled with a bit of melancholy. "You don't know, there's still some people in this world who don't even know if they're human or not. That's the saddest thing. How can there be such people?" Tang Tang was puzzled. Humans are humans, and other creatures are other creatures. What's so difficult to understand? Hee, let's not talk about this. Yang Cheng didn't want to continue this topic and asked, "Then if you live with your mother, Won't your father be angry and blame you? Tang Tang giggled, just like the young and naughty girl he saw before. Don't worry about this. My father is most afraid of my mother, and my mother loves me the most. As long as I talk to my father won't dare to say a word. It seems that your father likes your mother very much. Yang Chung smiled knowingly. Yes, Tang Tang nodded. My father wanted to pursue my mother since he was young, but my mother never agreed. They can only be regarded as the best of friends. So when my mother wanted to give birth to me, in order to make up for my father's regret, she asked my father to provide sperm. Later, after my mother gave birth to me, my father thought that my mother would change her mind, but my mother has been single until now. Now my father has basically given up, and he thinks that this is also good. Yang Chung shook his head and said, It's not that it's good. It's that your father has no other choice. After listening, Tang Tang sighed and said, Yes, my father is also very pitiful. When I was a child, I always hoped that my father could be with my mother. That way, I can have a complete family. Don't you have parents and a family now? It's not the same, Tang Tang said with a sad face. Uncle, do you know that my father and mother have been very busy since I was a child? One of them is busy in the government, and the other is busy with business. I have memories of being in nursery and kindergarten since I was a child. After school, it was the nanny who took care of me. At that time, I was especially afraid of kindergarten after school because I couldn't be like other children and happily run to the arms of my father and mother. Actually, my father and mother doted on me very much. They gave me a lot of money and helped me to make the place I lived beautiful. The clothes I wore were also famous brands. At that time, I was like a little princess. I had things that other children didn't have, and everyone was envious of me. But in my memory, I was not happy at all. In fact, I didn't need so much money. I just wanted them to take me to the amusement park to play, to accompany me to the park for a walk. Later, when I grew up, I would occasionally stay at my father's house, and occasionally at my mother's house. The adults on both sides always wanted to pull me into their house, but I didn't enter anyone's house. Even the name written on my ID was Tang Tang. I didn't take anyone's surname. My father and mother were very anxious at that time. They told me to take anyone's surname and not be like a wild child with no surname. At that time, I thought, am I not a wild child? Other than having money, a car, and a house, I am no different from a wild child. Speaking up to this point, Tang Tang was a little tearful again. But when she looked at Yang Chung, she smiled again. But now it's all good. Uncle, I finally don't have to play with those naughty children who only know how to compare and spend money all day. Yang Chung didn't expect such a lively girl to have such a past. Although her parents had a strong material wealth, they took care of this daughter's spiritual world in a poor and pitiful way. I'm not your father or mother. Don't think too highly of me, Yang Chung said with a bitter smile. His tone had calmed down quite a bit. Perhaps it was because Tang Tang's birth was somewhat similar to his, or perhaps it was because he felt pity for her gloomy youth. Tang Tang shook her head and said, Uncle is not my father, nor is he my mother. But Uncle will scold me when I race and do bad things. When I want to watch boring movies, he will accompany me to watch them. When I am in danger, he will protect me. Uncle will not be like those little boys who disgust me. These are all things that I have never met before. Then she blushed and said, Also, Uncle will occasionally be a little hooligan. Actually, I quite like it. Yang Chung touched his face. This girl's words gave him goosebumps. These are all trivial things. I'm not as important as you think. In the future, when you get to know more normal people of the same age, you will know that there are actually many good people in this world. It's not the same, Tang Tang said angrily. I'm just stubborn. If you're determined to cut all ties with me today and have nothing to do with me from now on, I'll get off the car and jump into the sea to commit suicide. Don't talk nonsense. Don't act recklessly. I will act recklessly if you act recklessly. Uncle, you are the one who forced me. I am who I am. You win. Yang Chung sighed and reached out to pinch Tang Tang's pink cheek as if he had accepted his fate. He smiled. Tang Tang was like a little general who had won a battle. She let out a bell-like laughter. For a moment, the haze in the car was swept away. Chapter 110. The temperature in Zhonghai had gradually cooled down since the beginning of autumn. The autumn wind swept away the heat like sweeping away the fallen leaves. Yang Cheng, who woke up early in the morning, had the thought of staying in the quilt. It had degenerated and decayed. After returning to China for half a year, the words staying in the quilt actually appeared in his mind. In the past 20 years, he had never thought that he would have such a day. When the hazy sunlight shone through the window, he could breathe in the natural morning air with dew. He could toss and turn in the quilt. He could smell the sweetness of the breakfast prepared downstairs. What a simple smell. Bang, bang, bang. The door was knocked, and the familiar voice of Mother Wong came from outside. "Young master, come down for breakfast. It's not good if Miss is waiting for you in the hospital." Mother Wong came up to wake Yang Cheng up because he was going to take Lin Ruoshi home today. Yang Cheng quickly put on a short-sleeved shirt and a pair of Adidas sports shorts. Because he did not have to worry about the possibility of getting sick, Yang Cheng was never afraid of catching a cold. He wore whatever was comfortable. After washing up, he ran downstairs to enjoy a sumptuous breakfast. Under the urging of Mother Wong, he ran out and drove to the hospital. On the way to the flower shop, Yang Cheng hesitated. He felt that listening to the old man's words will not be a loss. So he got off the car and ran into the flower shop. He looked around. The lady boss was a mature and beautiful woman. When she saw Yang Cheng enter the door, she smiled and asked what he needed. Yang Cheng remembered that Mother Wong said something about carnations. But after asking, he found out that there were different types of carnations. White, red, yellow, purple, and even green. Why do you have to look so strange for a flower? Yang Cheng thought gloomily. Young man, different colors of carnations have different meanings. Let me explain it to you in detail before you buy it, the lady boss said enthusiastically. Yang Cheng didn't have that much time to wait. He waved his hand domineeringly and said, "No need. Give me one of each color. It will save me the trouble." The lady boss's face darkened. This was the first time she had seen someone buy flowers like this. He bought one flower for every color. Did he think he was a child doodling? The colored pens scribbled randomly, and he had no idea what was what. However, a customer's request was in order. The lady boss smiled as she wrapped up a bunch of strange multicolored carnations and handed them to Yang Cheng. With so many carnations combined into a bunch, it was especially difficult to calculate the money. Yang Cheng threw a few red bills on the counter and left the flower shop in a hurry, without waiting for the lady boss to count the money. When the lady boss finished counting, she found that she was still short of more than 100 yuan. But when she looked up, she saw that Yang Cheng's car had already disappeared. She was so angry that she almost fainted. When Yang Cheng arrived at the hospital, it was the appointed time for discharge. As soon as he stepped into Lin Ruoshi's ward, two figures that he hadn't seen for a long time appeared in front of him. "Mr. Yang, how have you been?" Su Jihong was still smiling modestly and politely. In his hand was a large bouquet of pure white orchids, delicate and glistening. Next to Su Jihong was Furball, who was grinning as if he was begging for a beating. He was actually scratching his butt. It was unknown if it had been bitten by a mosquito or if it had grown something that shouldn't have. Lin Ruoshi, who was wearing a white floral dress with blue trim, was sitting quietly on the bed. Beside her was a small luggage that she had finished packing. Seeing Yang Cheng enter the door, she didn't pay him any attention. Instead, she lowered her head and filled out some form, which seemed to be something that one had to fill before being discharged from the hospital. Yang Cheng looked at Su Jihong. This bro was even more enthusiastic than him, her husband. It seemed that he still had feelings for Lin Ruoshi. Yang Cheng replied in a muffled voice, "Chairman Su, you're such a busy person, but you still came to send flowers to my wife. You're really giving me face." Su Jihong's smile froze. "What do you mean giving you face? What does it have to do with you that I'm sending flowers to Lin Ruoshi?" "Mr. Yang, you're so polite." Su Jihong looked at the mixed carnations in Yang Cheng's hand. He held back his laughter and pretended to say, "I don't know what the meaning of Mr. Yang's flowers is. I've never seen flowers sent in such a way." At this time, Lin Ruoshi also sneaked a peek. When she saw the messy carnations in Yang Cheng's hand, she frowned. She was very curious about what kind of flowers Yangcheng would give her, but she really didn't know what to say about Yangcheng. Yangcheng didn't mind it and smiled. There's a meaning? I wonder what Chairman Su's orchids represent. Su Jihong said proudly, beautiful, noble. This is my admiration for Ruashi. The orchids are just a token of my appreciation. Thank you for complimenting my wife. Yangcheng dragged out the word me, causing Su Jihong to frown. He said, the reason why there are so many colors in this bouquet is mainly because I really don't know how to praise my darling Ruashi. Beautiful, kind, noble, intellectual, sexy, charming, virtuous, dignified, loving, serious, tolerant, good wife and loving mother, model worker, Huaxia person of the year. Don't these flowers represent our Ruashi, so I had to bring them all. Who cares? So many flowers, so many adjectives. There's bound to be one that fits. Yangcheng thought with a smile. Lin Ruashi couldn't help but blush slightly at Yangcheng's praise and mushy words. What's the person who moved Huaxia person of the year? It was fine if this man was thick-skinned and didn't know how to buy flowers, but why did he have to say such mushy words? Su Jihong was speechless. If he had known, he would have bought an orchid of every color. But even if he had bought it, he probably wouldn't have said such disgusting words. He could only laugh dryly and say, Mr. Yang is indeed knowledgeable. Thank you for the compliment. Such a small merit has been discovered by Chairman Su. I've always been very low-key. If Chairman Su has nothing else, you can put down the flowers and leave, lest I hold you up. Yangcheng had a polite look on his face as he made a gesture with a smile. Su Jihong's face turned white and black, and he almost choked on his breath. Fine. He treated my polite words as the truth and shamelessly accepted a compliment. He even told me to put down the flowers and scram. Moreover, he didn't use a single vulgar word and was all smiles. Even if he had the energy, he had nowhere to vent it. Furball, who was following behind Su Jihong, looked at his master with pity. Chasing after a married woman and torturing himself to this state, was there really a need to? Then, Ruashi, I'll leave the flowers here. Congratulations on being discharged. I'll be leaving first. Su Jihong felt that if he stayed any longer, he would be like a volcano erupting, but what others erupted was lava, while his eruption would be blood. After the Su family's master and servant left, Lin Ruashi calmly raised her head and said, Don't be so rude to Chairman Su. He didn't do anything special. You call that nothing special? Yangcheng said loudly. Faster than your husband, sending flowers to the ground. Aren't you courting death? With that, Yangcheng walked to the cabinet and picked up Su Jihong's orchids, throwing them directly into the trash can in the corner. Only then did he walk in front of Lin Ruashi with satisfaction and raise the flowers in front of the woman. Welcome to the hospital, my dear. Being called my dear was a little awkward, but out of etiquette education from a young age, Lin Ruashi still took the flowers and said thank you. Yangcheng chuckled. No need to thank me. I know you're already very touched, but please don't cry. I'm most afraid of women crying in front of me. Lin Ruashi sighed. He was still as indecent as ever. His roguish temper was back. Why was she crying for no reason? After completing the procedures and leaving the hospital, Yangcheng drove Lin Ruashi home for the first time. Although the two sat in the same car before, it was always Lin Ruashi who drove her expensive Bentley to pick up Yangcheng. Sitting in the passenger seat, Lin Ruashi looked at the new interior of the BMW M3 and said, Yangcheng, the car you're driving now is mine. As a man, don't you feel a little ashamed? Yangcheng shook his head. I'm not ashamed. General Lin, you have a lot of cars anyway. It's a waste to keep them. I'm helping you eliminate the waste. It's an honor. I'm serious. Lin Ruashi frowned and said, You're a man. Shouldn't you work hard to get a good car and house by yourself? You're driving a woman's car. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? Lin Ruashi tried her best to persuade him. She hoped that Yangcheng would feel a little ashamed and work hard. Yangcheng thought for a moment and nodded seriously. Ruashi, my little darling, I feel that something is wrong. I'll cut off the logo of this BMW with a knife. Then it won't be a BMW anymore. It won't be so eye-catching. Don't you think so? Lin Ruashi really wanted to go forward and turn the steering wheel. She wanted the car to crash into the highway guardrail and kill this rascal. Looking at the grinning Yang Chung, Lin Ruoshi felt her heart turn cold again because of disappointment. She looked indifferent and didn't want to say anything more. Yang Chung also knew that his wife was sulking about his lack of ambition. He began to concentrate on driving and pretended that he didn't know anything. They arrived home in silence. Mother Wong was already waiting at the door. Seeing the young couple get out of the car, she immediately helped Lin Ruoshi with her luggage. After letting them in, she went to prepare lunch. Lin Ruoshi ignored Yang Chung after entering the house. She called her secretary, Wu Yu, and went upstairs to deal with official business. She was busy until lunch. Mother Wong felt sorry for Lin Ruoshi and told her not to work hard as soon as she got home. But the latter was obviously used to this kind of persuasion. Although she listened, she still continued to do it. Mother Wong's cooking skills were superb. In order to welcome Lin Ruoshi home, the dishes on the table were more sumptuous than before. The colorful and fragrant dishes made Yang Chung swallow his saliva. Mother Wong, teach me how to cook when you have time. I like your cooking skills, Yang Chung said with expectation. Being praised was always a happy thing. Mother Wong said with a smile, as long as you like it. Teach me when you have time. I am an old woman. I'm always free. Seeing this scene, Lin Ruoshi thought of how she persuaded Yang Chung to work hard in the car. She didn't expect that this man didn't want to work hard and wanted to learn how to cook from a woman. She couldn't help looking at Yang Chung with even more displeasure and disappointment. Although Mother Wong prepared a lot of delicious food, Lin Ruoshi was depressed. She just ate a little and suddenly said that she wanted to go out. Mother Wong used her foot to touch Yang Chung under the table and gave him a look. Yang Chung understood and asked with a smile, Where are you going? If you're going to the company, do you want me to send you? I have nothing to do on the weekend anyway. Lin Ruoshi looked at Yang Chung coldly and said with a blank face, No need. I'm not going to the company. I can drive myself. You can continue to eat with Mother Wong. After that, Lin Ruoshi picked up the car key on the table and went out without looking back. Not going to the company? Yang Chung was a little puzzled. Last night, she said that she wanted to go out for no reason. Although he was curious, Yang Chung was not bored enough to follow her. After all, he had to respect the other party's privacy. Thinking of Lin Ruoshi's eyes when she left, why did it feel like it was back to the time when they first met? It was so emotionless. He thought that these days there would be some improvement and he wanted to get along well after returning home this time. But the current situation made Yang Chung feel helpless and funny. Chapter 111. On Monday morning, Yang Chung habitually left home half an hour early. After buying breakfast at the West District Market, he took advantage of the time when the roads weren't jammed and arrived at the company on time. Entering the PR department's hall, a group of gorgeously dressed PR ladies were already raising their heads in anticipation. The way they looked at Yang Chung was like how a hungry tigress would look at a fat sheep. Brother Yang, you're finally here. I haven't eaten the breakfast you brought for 2 days. My heart is so empty. Give it to me, give it to me. My soup dumplings. A few pretty girls had already learned to come forward to carry breakfast for Yang Chung. This made Yang Chung very pleased. Not every man could enjoy being surrounded by a group of fragrant women. Zhang Kai, who usually ate the most, naturally snatched the most. She opened the bag and stuffed a bun into her mouth. Her pink lips opened and closed, causing her round face to become a little deformed. She didn't have the demeanor of a virtuous lady at all as she ate and asked, Yang Chun, I feel like my appetite has been spoiled by you. Even the breakfast at home is tasteless. A girl who was close to her teased her, Kai Kai, I think it's not that your breakfast is tasteless, but that man at home is also tasteless, right? You should just follow Yang Chung. He'll feed you until you're full every day. When your stomach is full, everything else will be full too. These words were ambiguous. Zhang Kai blushed and pinched the back of the pretty girl's hand. What are you talking about? I'm not a silly girl like you. Other than my stomach being empty, I'm not empty at all. Only you, who have no man, are empty. Who are you trying to fool? With your figure and age, you're not far from the age of a wolf and tiger. Your family's college professor is as skinny as a monkey, and he reads books all day like an old pedant. How can he satisfy you?" The pretty girl said in disbelief. Zhang Kai bared her teeth at her and puffed up her face, but she couldn't say anything. Zhang Kai, so your husband is a college professor? This was the first time Yang Cheng had heard of this. He smiled and sized Zhang Kai up. I couldn't tell that you would marry a university professor, a senior in university. He treated me quite well. I married him in a daze. Zhang Kai rolled her eyes and said. At this moment, Lu Mingyu, who was wearing a purple suit, walked over gracefully with a cup of coffee in her hand. Her beautiful eyes roamed as she said, "Back then when Zhang Kai got married, we were all shocked. This girl's marriage is like a joke, coming as she pleases." Zhang Kai stuck out her tongue and continued to eat her buns without saying anything. Yang Cheng chatted with the girls for a while, then returned to his seat, turned on his computer, and bit into his youtiao. In the past, it was always Zhao Hongyan who arrived first. But today, for some reason, that beautiful female colleague hadn't arrived yet. Yang Cheng wasn't used to it. Just as he thought of this, Zhao Hongyan's familiar figure appeared at the door. She was wearing a pink and white chiffon shirt with a fine pearl necklace hanging in front of her chest. Her hair was slightly permed, concealing some of her voluptuous figure. However, it revealed a mellow beauty that wasn't there before. As soon as she entered the door, Zhao Hongyan panted and said to everyone, "Did anyone see the man outside the door on the first floor when you came to the company?" "Man? Which man?" A few pretty girls asked in confusion. "Hongyan, you're already married and you're still thinking about a man? What are you talking about?" "It's the man who is shouting and wearing rags," Zhao Hongyan said anxiously. A group of female PR employees were confused. "I didn't see him. What's wrong with that man?" Zhao Hongyan's face was full of worry. "Before I entered the company, I heard that man shouting our department head Mo's name. He also said that department head Mo was ungrateful, cruel, and unscrupulous. In short, there were a lot of unpleasant words. A lot of people went downstairs to watch. A weird man who badmouthed Mo Chinny. Not to mention that Mo Chinny was occasionally a little strict in everyone's eyes. She was a beautiful, capable, responsible, and perfect urban woman. Even if it was just Yulei International's brand, it wasn't something that just anyone could come up and make a fuss about. Besides, there were security guards. How could there be no one doing anything? All the female PR employees instantly stood up. They were curious, surprised, shocked, angry, anxious, and all kinds of emotions. The women quickly left their seats and ran towards the elevator, intending to go down and see what was going on. Yang Cheng squinted his eyes. He could roughly guess who that man was, but he didn't expect Zhang Fuguwei to come up with such a method. A corner dog would do something desperate. He had to be careful. But thinking about it carefully, if this was really Zhang Fuguwei's doing, then it was too suspicious. It wasn't clear how he had the ability to come up with such a vicious method. But how could there be no one stopping him? Mo Chinny hadn't arrived yet. If Mo Chinny bumped into him, things would probably get even more troublesome. Without hesitation, Yang Cheng got up and ran towards the stairway. Others took the elevator, so he took the stairs. Anyway, it was faster than the elevator. When Yang Cheng almost jumped down the stairs, he arrived at the business hall on the first floor. As expected, the women in the elevator were still going down. Outside the door of the first floor, there were at least 20 to 30 employees of Yulei International, men and women, young and old. They were all pointing and whispering to each other. Yang Cheng walked out of the door and pushed aside the crowd in front of him. Only then did he see the man surrounded in the middle. It was indeed Zhang Fuguwei with his face covered in dirt. Zhang Fuguwei's eyes were bloodshot, his cheeks were sunken, and his hair was disheveled. He didn't care as he sat on the cement floor and kept shouting at the people around him. Mo Chinny is so ungrateful. Mo Chinny doesn't want me, her old man, after earning money. I curse her to death, that bitch who sells her body. If I didn't work so hard to raise her mother and son, she wouldn't be where she is today. Mo Chinny, your conscience has been eaten by dogs. The deranged Zhang Fuguwei kept talking about how he showed kindness to Mo Chinny in the past, and how Mo Chinny was cruel to him. She despised the poor and loved the rich. She asked him to get out of Zhonghai and wanted to cut off all relations with him. There were more and more people passing by. Seeing this scene, there were people who didn't believe it, but those who were jealous of Mo Chini all began to think of ways to convince the people around them that it was true. Mo Chini was a poisonous beauty with a human face and a scorpion heart. When Zhang Fugui saw Yang Cheng appear at the side of the court, he suddenly rushed in front of Yang Cheng. He grabbed Yang Cheng's trousers and shouted, "Everyone look! This man is the man that Mo Chini, that bitch, hooked up with. That day, they teamed up to bully me at the construction site. Poor me, with my old and weak body. How can I beat young people? My life is so bitter." Zhang Fugui cried and cried. He really looked like a bitter father. It made many people who didn't believe him start to doubt him. They looked at Yang Cheng with a strange gaze. Yang Cheng frowned and kicked Zhang Fugui away. "Do you think you can redeem everything like this? You're too naive. If you really want the truth to be revealed, I don't mind sending you to court." Zhang Fugui rolled on the ground. When he heard about going to court, his face immediately turned pale. "No need." A familiar voice came from behind the crowd. The crowd slowly moved aside. Mo Chini, who was wearing a light blue knitted coat, a white spaghetti top, and a black short skirt, walked in with an unkind expression. Her gentle and pretty face was full of frost. She stared straight at Zhang Fugui on the ground and sneered. "You said I'm cruel and unscrupulous? You said I bullied you?" Zhang Fugui also seemed to be afraid of Mo Chini's cold expression. He slightly retreated and forced himself to say, "Yes, that's right. Do you really think I don't dare to say it? All right, since you dare to say it, then I can only really bully you." After saying that, Mo Chini walked forward and suddenly stepped on Zhang Fugui's thigh with her high heels. Ouch! Zhang Fugui's thigh was pierced by the sharp heel, causing him to faint from the pain. Everyone present was shocked. They never thought that Mo Chini would use such a vicious method to deal with this strange man. They looked at Mo Chini with fear, as if they didn't know Mo Chini at all. Mo Chini retracted her foot. The heel was already stained with red blood, dripping to the ground. It looked ferocious and cruel. At this time, the female staff of the Public Relations Department also ran to the scene. When they saw this scene, they all cried out in alarm, as if they couldn't believe that Mo Chini would do such a thing. Mo Chini's ice-cold gaze swept across the crowd and finally landed on Yang Chen's face. Revealing a mysterious and charming smile, she walked in front of Yang Chen, exhaled a fragrant breath, and got closer to ask, "Yang Chen, are you hurt? This mad dog bites people randomly. If you were bitten, my heart would ache." This sentence was not spoken lightly. After everyone present heard it, they were even more convinced of one thing. Yang Chen and Mo Chini had an affair. Yang Chen smiled faintly. He pointed at Zhao Hongyan, who was the closest to him, and asked, "Department Head Mo, do you know her?" Mo Chini's face slightly changed. She glanced at Zhao Hongyan and chuckled. "You're so annoying. Why are you mentioning other women?" Mo Chini exuded an unprecedented seductive charm, but Yang Cheng wasn't in the mood to appreciate it. He shook his head and sighed. "I think we should find a place with no one to talk about it. What do you think?" "Okay, follow me." Mo Chini readily agreed and took the lead to the parking lot. After Yang Cheng left the scene with Mo Chini, the staff present looked at each other and discussed in puzzlement. Zhang Kai couldn't figure it out, so she asked the surrounding people, "What's wrong with Department Head Mo? She seems to be a different person. Also, when did she get together with Yang Cheng? Doesn't Yang Cheng have a wife? I don't know. It's weird. I don't even know her." Another female staff nodded in agreement. What the two of them said is so strange. Zhao Hongyan felt the most inexplicable and asked Lu Mingyu, "Big sis Mingyu, why does Department Head Mo seem to not know me? Is she pretending?" Lu Mingyu frowned and thought for a while. She then shook her head and said, "It doesn't seem like it. I feel that she really doesn't know you." Chapter 112. Although the matter was a bit too bizarre, after all, it had nothing to do with them. The employees in the company discussed it for a while before dispersing. Although rumors and slanders would spread, it wouldn't have too much of an impact. After all, which family didn't have something that couldn't be spread out? It just happened that it happened to a beautiful woman, so it wasn't something new. Poor Zhang Fugue, with the help of a few kind-hearted beauties, called the hospital, and no one cared about anything else. The group of people in the public relations department saw Yang Cheng and Mo Chinny leave. Although they were full of questions, they could only go back to work and wait for the two to come back. As for Yang Cheng, he followed Mo Chinny all the way to the company's parking lot. Yulei International's parking lot was divided into 3 floors. The 3rd floor was usually a huge open-air balcony, and almost no cars would park there. When they walked to the innermost corner of the parking lot, there was no one around. Mo Chinny smiled and turned around, stopping her footsteps. Yang Cheng maintained a distance of a few feet from her. Seeing that Mo Chinny didn't speak, he wasn't in a hurry. He took out a cigarette and lit it for himself, then said, "I remember reminding you last time, if we meet again, I won't hold back." Mo Chinny showed a confused expression, pouted and asked, "Dear, what are you talking about? Don't pretend." Yang Cheng smiled and touched his chin. "You didn't imitate her at all. Aside from the appearance, figure, and aura, you didn't imitate her at all." Mo Chinny eyes flashed a trace of light. "Are you doubting my imitation level?" Yang Cheng shook his head. "No, I know you deliberately changed to be different from her. If you want, you have the ability to be exactly the same as her. Although the perfume on your body was originally of the same brand as hers, you purposely replaced the Gucci brand with the Lancome brand. You were able to take such details into consideration. If you hadn't expressed it yourself, I don't think I would have been able to discover any clues so quickly." "Then do you know why I don't care if you recognize me?" Mo Chinny asked slyly. Yang Cheng blew out a smoke ring and said with a faint smile, "Do you still need to think about it? Since the fake Mo Chinny is already in front of me, then the real Mo Chinny must be somewhere." "So smart." The woman turned around slightly and quickly made some changes on her face. When she turned around again, her face had returned to its original appearance. She had a sexy and charming face that revealed a bit of wild beauty. She was none other than the female ninja who had once pretended to be Tang, Hanya. Yang Chun was a little distressed as he said, "Miss Hanya, although I don't know why your Yamada sect is so daring to take action in Huaxia, I think you've found the wrong person. I'm just coming back to this land to live a retired life. In other words, it's called enjoying the rest of my life. I welcome all of you to come and drink tea or eat with me, but it's a little unreasonable for you to capture the people around me and impersonate them to cause trouble for them. No matter what, you are one of the 3 great ninjas of Yamada sect. How can you always do such ungentlemanly things?" Hanya's gorgeous red lips opened slightly. "Your Majesty Pluto, if you want to drink tea or eat, Hanya is happy to accompany you. If you have time, even spending the night with me is Hanya's honor. But can you first hand over the God's Stone? I will guarantee that your friend, Miss Mo, will be unscathed. I can even help you return your clothes to her. All right, you might not know this, but I even changed in her underwear. I've said it before, I don't know what God's Stone is." Yang Cheng spread his hands. "Impossible," Hanya said. "Even if everyone in the world doesn't know what God's Stone is, as the only person in the world who survived under the light of God's Stone, you must know better than anyone else what God's Stone represents. Everything that happened in the past is enough to prove that only you can control God's Stone." Yang Cheng slapped his forehead. "Why don't you believe me? You speak Huaxia's language so well. Don't you know that we, the people of Huaxia, regard honesty as a virtue?" "You're not human," Hanya sneered. "You don't need to follow everything that humans do." "I don't like what you said. I have 2 arms and 2 legs, and the rod below is especially long. How am I not human?" Yang Cheng said gloomily. "I don't want to talk about this with you. Whether you're human or not, your Majesty Pluto knows it best," Hanya said coldly. "I want God's Stone. As long as I get God's Stone, I can guarantee that our Yamada sect will treat your Majesty Pluto as our most reliable ally. Not to mention that I don't have any God's Stone, I really don't dare to become your Yamata sect's ally. Wouldn't being with your Yamata sect make me an enemy of everyone else? Not to mention, your Japan's Takamagara still has a bunch of lunatics who want to go against you. I don't want to get into too much trouble. Yang Chung shook his head, determined not to do it. Hanya revealed a cold expression. Then I'm sorry, perhaps we need to use other methods to negotiate. Also, your friend Miss Mo might become the sacrifice for your uncooperative behavior. Yang Chan finished smoking, threw the cigarette but under his feet and stepped on it, then said, I don't think it's possible that you came here alone today, right? If I'm not wrong, there should be 2 other people in the same line of work somewhere nearby, and my superior Miss Mo Chinny should also be nearby. Hanya said expressionlessly. As expected of Pluto, you thought of this so quickly. But so what? Tanuki's concealment ability and his stealth are the best in the world. Even if you're Pluto, you won't be able to find them. Tanuki, one of the 3 great ninjas. I heard that he's currently the #1 assassin in Japan. He's indeed a powerful character. Yang Chung nodded in agreement. Why? Does your Majesty Pluto want to change your plan? Is it better to cooperate with us? After all, your beautiful and charming superior is still in our hands. Hanya smiled proudly. No, no, no. Yang Chung waved his hand. I don't think there's a need to go through so much trouble. Although I might not be able to find them in a short time, with you here, they will definitely bring them to me. When Hanya heard this, she immediately understood Yang Cheng's meaning. Being looked down upon made her unable to bear it, and coldly snorted, Pluto, do you really think I'm someone you can slaughter as you please? Don't underestimate the dignity of the 3 great ninjas of the great Japanese Empire. Whether or not I'm underestimating you, Miss Hanya can give a try. Yang Chung calmly looked at the woman. The corner of Hanya's mouth revealed a strange smile. Her figure gradually became blurry, like a knitted drawing. Gradually, the lines were pulled away from their original positions. Yang Chung stood at his original position without moving. After a second or so, he stretched out one hand towards the left side and lightly pinched it with 2 fingers. Ding! The sound of metal rubbing against each other rang out. Hanya, who was about to stab Yang Chung with her ninja dagger in midair, suddenly stopped. The dagger in her hand, which didn't even have the chance to move, was magically pinched by Yang Cheng's fingers. Yang Chung didn't give Hanya a chance to react. His fingers slightly bent. Ding! Another crisp sound rang out. The broken dagger, made of fine steel, was forcibly broken into 2 pieces. In her anger, Hanya abandoned the weapon in her hand. Her body once again dissipated in midair. So. 2 shurikens attacked Yang Cheng's abdomen one after the other. Yang Chung didn't dodge and stood at his original position. His hands were like flowing water. After a gentle stroke, the 2 shurikens were perfectly caught by Yang Cheng's hands. Looking at the strange emerald green glow on the shurikens, Yang Chung sighed. This poison can stun 3 elephants to death. In order to deal with me, Miss Hanya is really willing to spend a lot of money. Hanya's sneak attack failed again. Instead, she lost the 2 poisoned shurikens. While feeling dispirited about her own battle, she finally realized that the man in front of her had terrifying observation and movement abilities. She definitely couldn't beat him. If she couldn't beat him, then she would run. Ninjas weren't samurai or martyrs. Preserving her life was more important than completing the mission. Escape techniques were definitely one of the most essential skills for a ninja. As a jonin that surpassed jonin, Hanya had naturally reached the point of perfection. After a few more sealing shurikens flew out, Hanya's body once again became illusory, making it difficult to see her specific location. The entire parking lot on the 3rd floor was filled with the sound of Hanya's footsteps, but she was nowhere to be seen. Yang Chung took large strides towards the left side of the parking lot's guardrail. With every step he took, he dodged the shurikens flying towards him. One of the shurikens was blocked by the poisonous sword in his hand. When Yang Chung was less than 10 meters away from the guardrail, the shurikens that Yang Chung had previously grabbed were suddenly shot towards an empty space in front of the guardrail. So, the shurikens made a sound of breaking through the air. When it flew about a meter in front of the guardrail, it suddenly sprayed out a flower of blood in the transparent air. It was like a fiery red azalea that was trying its best to bloom. Hanya's figure that was behind Yang Chung suddenly appeared in front of the guardrail, as if by magic. On her arm was a wound caused by the shurikens. The poison on the shuriken was something that Hanya had always given to others. She didn't expect that she would have a taste of this poison today. When Hanya realized that her skin had been pierced by the shurikens, she already felt terrible. She hurriedly took out a pill from her pocket and stuffed it into her stomach. Your pill should be able to detoxify the effects of ordinary poisons. The concentration of poison on your specially made shurikens is beyond ordinary. Miss Hanya, can you still use ninjutsu to escape? Yang Chung walked up to Hanya and squatted down in front of her, grinning at her. Chapter 113. For the first time in her life, Hanya felt that the antidote was more important than the poison. The moment her poison entered her body, it made her feel like she was better off dead than alive. This was the feeling of a person who was used to having a strong body, suddenly feeling paralyzed. All the strength in her body was rapidly fading away, and the antidote that entered her body was like trying to put out a burning cart of firewood with a cup of water. You've learned our ninjutsu? Hanya asked with difficulty, almost moaning. Yang Chung was admiring the female ninja's voluptuous figure lying on the ground. Because her entire body was sore and weak, all the tightened muscles had relaxed, giving her voluptuous body a strange feeling. Hearing Hanya's question, he shook his head and said, Your ninjutsu are all secret techniques from different sections. Although I have a way to secretly learn it, I'm not interested. Then why are you able to see through every ninjutsu? Hanya asked unwillingly. Yang Chung couldn't help but laugh. Miss Hanya, there's an old saying in Huaxia. In the world of martial arts, there's nothing that can't be broken. Only speed can't be broken. You ancient samurai obtained the seeds of martial arts from Huaxia. And even after creating your own Japanese martial arts and ninjutsu, you still feel complacent, thinking that you're the only one. In fact, your martial arts still can't escape the scope of this saying. In this world, the truly strong only compete in two things, speed and strength. As for moves, they're all fleeting. Hanya seemed to have thought of something and seemed to have understood something. When she looked at Yang Chung again, there was some respect in her eyes. Your Majesty Pluto, you're a strong person worthy of respect, but it's a pity that you have to stand on the opposite side of our Yamata sect. No, Yang Chung denied. It's not that I want to go against you. It's you guys who are looking for trouble with me. I've already said that I'm retiring and returning to this land to live a simple life. Even the Yellow Flame Iron Brigade has let me go, so why are you guys joining in? Hanya retorted with certainty. Please believe me, Your Majesty Pluto, with your intelligence, it's impossible for you to not think of it. Please don't lie to yourself. The reason why the Yellow Flame Iron Brigade hasn't made a move yet is because they haven't found the most suitable opportunity. No organization or country would allow the Godstone to fall into the hands of others. Even if it's you, they would still challenge the dignity of the gods. It's only a matter of time before they take action. Yang Chung smiled bitterly and said, When you put it like that, it's like tearing apart my happiness disguise and forcing me to have a headache. So you're saying that you admit that the Godstone is in your hands? Hanya took the opportunity to ask. Yang Chung hurriedly shook his head. What do you mean by that? What I mean is, they're all the same as you. They mistakenly believe that I have that Godstone. In fact, I really don't. But all right, Yang Chung shouted. Miss Hanya, you've already been poisoned. What's the point of shouting so much? Although I know that your poison will slowly be removed due to the antidote, before that, I still need to use you to exchange for my superior, Miss Hanya revealed a hint of helplessness. The mission plan failed once again, causing her to feel a sense of defeat. In the eyes of this young, genius ninja, the man in front of her was like a high wall that she couldn't see the top of. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't climb over it. Even if she forcefully crashed into it, it would be like crashing into an incomparably solid iron plate. Seeing that Hanya didn't speak, Yang Chang said again. What, do you want me to specially find your two companions? Hanya was shocked and suddenly raised her head. You know it's two people? It seems that you didn't hear what I said just now. Mr. Lee's concealment technique is indeed very powerful, but what I said just now is that I can't find them in a short period of time. Moreover, when you're injured by me just now, one of them exposed a trace of their aura. Yang Cheng smiled evilly. Hanya opened her small mouth, but she couldn't say anything. This man's strength was really unimaginable. Is this the power of the gods? Hanya asked, as if she was talking to herself. Yang Cheng put his hands on his hips and looked around as if he was looking for someone familiar. I'm not sure about that. After all, we don't meet often. Hanya nodded her head. She seemed to have recovered a little strength. She raised her hand and made a strange gesture, similar to an ancient seal. Almost at the same time, two figures wrapped in dark ninja clothes appeared out of thin air and stood behind Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng turned around and smiled as he looked at the two people. One of them had a body that was especially well built. His eyes were like a fierce tiger's, and there was even a scar at the corner of his eyes. The other man's body was much thinner, but the curves of his muscles showed that he definitely had a strong explosive power. Perhaps it was because of some kind of ninjutsu, but even when standing under the sun, his whole body emitted a black mist. Tengu Tanuki? The skinny Tanuki chuckled and spoke in Huaxia language with a Japanese accent. As expected of the Pluto who stands at the top of the pyramid. The glory of our assassin world. Ever since I officially debuted, this is the first time someone could see through my tracks. Yang Cheng smiled modestly. You're too polite. However, your Huaxia language is really lacking compared to Miss Hanya's. That's because I only need to kill and don't need to speak. A hint of viciousness flashed in Tanuki's eyes. May I ask, how did His Majesty Pluto discover our tracks? Actually, if it wasn't for this brother beside you suddenly exploding with killing intent, it would have been really hard for me to find you so quickly. Yang Cheng said honestly. Tengu, you spoiled the mood. Tanuki said unhappily. The tall Tengu coldly glanced at Tanuki. You're trash. Don't find excuses. What did you say? Tanuki's voice rose an octave. I said you're trash. Enough. Hanya, who was on the ground, scolded hatefully. What are you guys arguing about? You're all trash. This time, the two of them didn't say anything else. In an instant, their figures flashed, and when they reappeared, they were already beside Hanya. Heavenly Hound helped Hanya up and hugged her waist with one hand. Hanya frowned. After glancing at Tengu, she said to Yang Cheng, His Majesty Pluto, we won't give up. We've lost today. We won't give you another chance to exchange hostages next time. You guys aren't going to make a move? Yang Cheng asked curiously. Making a move after losing the initiative is one of the biggest taboos for ninjas. Moreover, we have no confidence at all, Tanuki said with a duck-like voice. If His Majesty Pluto wants to see your beautiful superior safely, please let us leave 200 meters away first. Yang Cheng rubbed his nose and said, Actually, 100 meters is enough. You guys don't have to be so nervous. I'm quite impressed by the Shuanpa of you ninjas. It's indeed very fast. It's a deal. As soon as they finished speaking, the two of them took Hanya, who was unable to move, and disappeared from where they stood. Yang Cheng looked at the roofs of the buildings in the distance and muttered, 100, 150, 200. After counting to 200, Yang Cheng heard a voice that was as soft as a mosquito's whisper. Yang Cheng relaxed his tense muscles and revealed a smile. He wouldn't chase after them. It wasn't because he couldn't catch up. It was only a matter of time before he did. It was just that unless it was absolutely necessary, Yang Cheng didn't plan to completely fall out with them. After all, the other party hadn't really taken advantage of them. Moreover, he had other things to do. Turning around and leaving the parking lot on the third floor, Yang Cheng planned to go to the second floor to look for Mo Chinny's red Audi, because Tanuki told him that this pitiful woman was currently lying in her car and was completely naked. At the same time, Hanya and the other two who had jumped to a hidden billboard on a tall building stopped. Hanya regained some strength. She glared at Tengu, who was hugging her waist, and refused to let go. She said in Japanese, "Let go." Tengu's expression was wooden. The hand that was hugging Hanya's soft and slender waist tightened. It even extended towards Hanya's perky buttocks. His palm grabbed onto Hanya's soft and elastic flesh. Tanuki, who had a wretched look on his face, hid at the side and didn't make a sound. Tengu, wait for me to recover. I'll make you wish you were dead. Hanya was so angry that her face turned red. Why? Hanya, why aren't you willing to be my woman? Tengu was very agitated, but his tone was still very low. Hanya said coldly, Why do you want me to be your woman? I'm the strongest man in the organization. You can only belong to me. Tengu said firmly. Don't forget, there's still the leader. Hanya laughed weakly, still as charming as ever. Tengu's eyes revealed a trace of fierceness. The leader is already old. The women he found are basically just dancing and drinking with him. The leader has already lost the pride and dignity that a man should have. If I were him, I would abdicate and scram. Shut up. Hanya's delicate body trembled slightly. You're not allowed to insult my father. He's only your foster father, and only yours, not mine. Tengu pulled down his mask. His square face that looked like it was carved with a knife started to distort. Hanya, wake up. He never saw you as his daughter. In his eyes, you're just a mother beast that he's tamed. He deserves to die. He's greedy for your beauty. He wants to dominate his foster daughter. That rotten old man wants to own you, but he doesn't have that ability anymore. Serve him right. Hanya gathered all her strength and gave Tengu a slap. I've already said, you're not allowed to insult my father. Hanya's eyes were covered with a layer of mist. Tengu covered his face that was slapped. His chest heaved up and down. Then he laughed loudly. Ha. You hit me. Hanya, you hit me. You asked for it. Hanya stared at him coldly. You'll regret it. Why get rid of that old man and become the new leader? I want you to be my female slave. You'll be naked in front of me every day and listen to all my orders. Tengu licked his lips passionately. Hanya looked at the crazy man with disdain and mocked. Talk about it when you can do it. I will. As long as I get the god stone from that guy. I can also become a god. At that time, an old ground ninja is nothing to worry about. Tengu said confidently. A sharp light flashed in Hanya's eyes. You're not allowed to act recklessly. You know very well how strong Hell King is. You don't have the right to order me. I'll let you know that I'm stronger than that old man. I'm hundreds of times stronger. In the corner, Tanuki, who had been silent all this while looked at everything, an evil smile appeared on his face. Chapter 114. When Yang Cheng came to the innermost parking space on the second floor, Imo Chinny's red A4 was indeed parked there. The door was closed, and because of the dark tinted window film, he couldn't see the situation inside. After Yang Cheng approached, he knocked on the door, but there was no movement inside. Slightly revealing a meaningful smile, Yang Cheng pretended to turn around and leave. Yang Cheng. The rear door of the car was immediately open a gap. Imo Chinny's rosy and delicate face revealed a line, and nervously called out to Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng pretended to be surprised and turned his head. Yo, Department Head Imo, you are really inside. I was wondering why you didn't come to work early in the morning. The car is here. Are you playing hide and seek? Hide and seek your head. Imo Chinny was also anxious, and without the demeanor of a lady, she couldn't help but shout. What is going on? Why did I become like this for no reason? How is it? Yang Cheng asked with a mischievous smile. Imo Chinny's pretty face was red, and she stammered, That is, why are my clothes all gone? Imo Chinny felt like she saw a ghost. Originally, she was in a very good mood today. Because of Yang Cheng's suggestion, she solved a lot of troubles at home. However, when she just arrived at the company and was about to get out of the car, she suddenly felt dizzy, and then her vision went black, and she didn't know what happened. When she woke up again, she was lying naked on the sofa of her own car, and even her black stockings were pulled down. Not a single piece of clothing. Damn it, I'm not the female lead of a supernatural movie. What is this? Even movies are not so strange. Yang Cheng didn't joke with her anymore. It seemed that this beautiful female boss's psychological endurance was not bad. She didn't collapse, so he calmly said, If you want to know the cause and effect, I can tell you, but these things are a bit strange, so it's up to you whether you believe it or not. You first. It was rare for Mo Chinny to see Yang Chang so serious. Although she was naked and embarrassed to hide in the car, she still calmed herself down and looked at Yang Chang through the gap in the door. Yang Chang sorted out his thoughts and began to narrate what happened early in the morning. The general story was that a group of bad guys wanted to steal something valuable from Yang Chang, but Yang Chang didn't have it, so he couldn't give it to them. Therefore, they wanted to use the people around Yang Chang as a bargaining chip to force Yang Chang to give them. However, they didn't expect that in the end, they couldn't beat Yang Chang, so their plan didn't succeed. As for what happened with Zhang Fugui in front of the company, it was more difficult to explain. Yang Chang could only say that before the bad guys decided to use Mo Chinny, they had already investigated Mo Chinny's background. After Mo Chinny was bewitched, one of the women who was good at disguising, similar to the stunt of face changing, pretended to be Mo Chinny, and she even did it vividly. Thus, she used Zhang Fugui as a chess piece to bring trouble to Mo Chinny and Yang Chang. Not only did it affect Mo Chinny's image, but it also made Yang Chang accidentally become Mo Chinny's lover. However, things weren't too bad because Yang Chang quickly took the woman away, but the rumors would probably spread for a long time. After Mo Chinny heard it, she was silent for a while before she looked up and asked with uncertainty, "That thing is actually in your hands, right?" Yang Chang was stunned. "What thing?" "The thing that they wanted to rob is actually in your hands." "You lied to them, right?" Yang Chang quickly shook his head. "How could that be? I really don't have it." Mo Chinny looked at him strangely and asked again, "Well, if there is and you have that thing and you can't beat them today, will you use that thing to exchange for my life?" Yang Chang wasn't mentally prepared for this sudden question. Even with his strong mental fortitude, he was still slightly shaken. "Will I use God's stone to exchange for this woman's life?" "This, I don't think there's a need to answer. They can't beat me," Yang Chang said ambiguously. "I'm saying if you can't beat them. I want you to answer me now, right now." Mo Chinny asked stubbornly. The flush on her face gradually faded, and there was a bit of nervousness and apprehension in her eyes, but more than that, there was anticipation. Yang Chang looked at her silently, and different images appeared in his mind at the job fair, that elegant figure with an intellectual smile. When she sent him to the gangster company, that sly and domineering look. When she saw him receiving the check, that cute and surprised look. When she accompanied Lin Ruashi on the bed, that gentle and simple back. When she was kidnapped by Lin Kuan, she was so strong and strongly resisted and scolded. In the food stall, the woman poured herself a glass of strong sorghum and told him about the past. In the construction area, the woman's helpless and disheartened tears and the tenacity of fighting with her inhuman stepfather for the briefcase, not long ago. This woman suddenly hugged him and gave him a warm and trembling kiss. That kiss was mixed with the sweet smell of alcohol, and it seemed to linger in his nose. These scenes seemed to have become a short but unforgettable movie, constantly flashing in Yang Chang's mind. Seeing that Yang Chang was lost in thought, Mo Chinny's eyes were covered with a layer of gray, and she lowered her eyes. "Forget it, if you don't want to answer." "I will." Yang Chang suddenly smiled and raised his head, looking at Mo Chinny with clear eyes. "I will exchange it if I really have that thing. But I don't think that day will ever come, because they really can't beat me." Mo Chinny only felt that her heart was pounding, and she could hear the strong vibration in her ears. Her ears were red, and her eyes were sparkling. Bang! The car door was quickly closed, and Mo Chinny shrank back. Yang Chang was stunned. What was this? He quickly knocked on the car door. "Miss Mo, what are you doing? You're not a turtle. Why did you shrink back?" "You're the turtle." Mo Chinny angrily opened the door again, pouting with dissatisfaction. Her eyes were red, as if she had just wiped away her tears. Yang Chang's eyes immediately stared straight at Mo Chinny. It turned out that this time the door was opened too wide, and Yang Chang could already see Mo Chinny's soft and plump figure in the backseat of the car. Although the light inside the car was very dim, he could still catch a glimpse of her delicate and smooth snow-white skin. Her towering pink flesh was like a ripe fruit, and under her enchanting and tight waist was her round and plump buttocks and two smooth and slender legs. Because Imo Chinny's body was bent in a sitting position, her whole figure was especially exquisite and attractive. This woman's figure was not inferior to Qiangwei's, Yang Cheng secretly thought. Imo Chinny also realized that the situation was not good. She exclaimed and quickly closed the door again and shouted in the car, "Yang Cheng, quickly find me clothes. You pervert, pervert, pervert." Yang Cheng's whole body shivered. This woman is still very hot-tempered. She's not cute at all. Looking at her won't make her pregnant. Shaking his head and sighing, Yang Cheng hesitated where to buy clothes for Imo Chinny. He didn't buy a little bit. She was even stripped of her underwear. It was the first time he bought underwear for a woman. At this moment, Imo Chinny slightly opened the back door of the car and stuffed the key of the Audi out. It fell to the ground. Open the trunk of the car. There's a black AF bag inside. The bag is full of clothes that can be changed. You go take it out and give it to me, Imo Chinny said without a good mood. Yang Chun felt as if he had been pardoned. He quickly ran to the trunk and opened it. Sure enough, there was a huge pile of clothes inside. It made sense. In such a high-intensity working environment, how could they not prepare some clothes? After putting the bag in the car door, Imo Chinny said again, "Turn around and walk away. I want to take the bag." Yang Cheng obediently ran away before he heard the sound of Imo Chinny taking the bag in. When he thought of the beauty's wonderful figure in the car that was less than 5 or 6 meters away, Yang Cheng felt that he was indeed a pure and kind young man. He could even endure this. After about 10 minutes, Imo Chinny changed her clothes and opened the door to walk out. She wore a silver-gray professional suit with a white-patterned pleated shirt inside. Her hair was tied up high, and she became that capable, intellectual, and charming department head Imo again. The way Imo Chinny looked at Yang Cheng was a little strange, but she didn't avoid it too much. Years of experience in the workplace had made this woman's psychological control unimaginably strong. Even though Yang Cheng had just seen her naked, she still maintained a good mood and said to Yang Cheng, "Thank you." Yang Cheng really didn't dare to accept this thank you. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have been involved in this case. He could only shake his head awkwardly. "No need to thank me. I'll be thankful if you don't hate me." Imo Chinny glared at him and asked, "You just said that Zhang Fugue came to the company to cause trouble. Where is he now? If there is no accident, he should be in the hospital. Why? You haven't finished with him yet?" A trace of determination flashed in Imo Chinny's eyes. "I did as you said and lied to Mom that Zhang Fugue wanted to divorce her. She really didn't get angry and didn't care at all. Only then did I confirm that Mom actually doesn't love him at all. Then you asked Zhang Fugue to sign the divorce agreement. With the information you gave me at the construction site last time, if he didn't want to sign, he would have to go to jail. He had no choice." Imo Chinny sneered and said, "Although he came here to cause trouble today because he was ordered by those bad people you said, it also brought me some trouble. But it's fine, so I can completely give up on him. I'll go to the hospital today and tell him. If he still causes trouble, I'll directly take him to court." That's a good idea. As expected of a strong woman, she did things swiftly and decisively. Yang Cheng touched his chin and thought for a moment, then asked, "What about other things? You are now a mistress, and we have become lovers. This is not good for your reputation." Imo Chinny's pretty face turned red, and she said softly, "It's okay." "What do you mean it's okay?" "It's not true. I'm a man, of course, it doesn't matter. You're a young beauty. It's too much of a disadvantage." Yang Cheng said seriously. Imo Chinny pursed her lips. "You just said yes, so it doesn't matter to me." Yang Cheng was confused. What did she mean by yes, so it doesn't matter to me? Imo Chinny didn't seem to want to explain. She had already walked out of the parking lot, but after a few steps, she suddenly stopped and turned to Yang Cheng and said, "Yang Cheng, when my mother completely ends her relationship with Zhang Fugue, I will find time to bring her to live in Zhonghai. It's convenient to take care of her. When the time comes, I want you to go with me to my hometown. You can't refuse." Her words seemed to have a hint of coquettishness. After that, The woman elegantly turned around and walked away quickly. Yang Chung stood alone in the same place and fiercely scratched his head. He suddenly remembered something. A few years ago, he saw on TV a famous supporter of the United States interviewed one of the smartest scientists in the world, Hawking. The supporter asked him, "What is it that a wise man like you can't figure out?" Hawking, who was sitting in a wheelchair, tilted his head and answered without hesitation, "Women." Chapter 115. The storm at the entrance of Ulay International didn't have as big of an impact as expected. Perhaps it was because of Ulay's good corporate culture that every employee accepted all this strangeness relatively calmly. To be more precise, in the big city of Shanghai, this kind of gossip really wasn't a big deal. When Mo Chinny walked into the office of the Public Relations Department, many girls cast her inquiring and comforting gazes, making Mo Chinny feel warm in her heart. Even when she was assigning tasks to the female public relations staff, her voice was much gentler than usual. Seeing Yang Chung return to his seat, Zhao Hongyan looked at Yang Chung with a strange smile. "You really hooked up with Department Head Mo? I'd rather have sex with you." Yang Chung winked at her. Zhao Hongyan blushed and hit Yang Chung. "I'm serious. Don't make fun of me. Take a guess." Yang Chung rolled his eyes at her. Women were indeed born with a strong sense of gossip. Zhao Hongyan seemed to be sure of the relationship between Yang Chung and Mo Chinny. She asked again, "Is Department Head Mo okay? Do you think she's okay?" Yang Chung pointed at Mo Chinny, who was explaining work to the female PR employees. She was still full of energy, and her eyes were firm. Zhao Hongyan felt relieved that Mo Chinny was fine. She said, "Actually, we've already discussed the matter with Department Head Mo. It's nothing. That man doesn't look like a good person. He must be the one who mistreated Department Head Mo first. It's fine if Department Head Mo is fierce, as long as she treats us well." "Is she treating you well? Why do I feel like she's always working for you, just like your supervisor?" Yang Chung asked with a smile. Zhao Hongyan looked at him with contempt. "You little newbie, you only know how to play games. Don't you understand? Which big company doesn't do this? They maximize the labor of their employees. It's just that while being squeezed dry, they're willing to be squeezed dry if they can get enough allowance. Let me tell you, ever since Department Head Mo took office, our public relations department's annual allowances and bonuses are the highest in the company. We also have priority in all the welfare benefits. Many of our sisters were bullied when they were discussing business with customers, and it was Department Head Mo who went to seek justice for them. Several times, she even quarreled with a few stubborn senior executives of the company. You're so domineering. Is no one going to do anything about it?" Yang Chen thought that Mo Chinny was only fierce to him, but he didn't expect it to be the case and not the person. Zhao Hongyan giggled and said, "Department Head Mo was promoted by the old CEO, so she could be considered a veteran of the company. Moreover, she is a friend of CEO Lin. CEO Lin will definitely support Department Head Mo. Those bad guys can't climb over us even if they want to. What's more, Department Head Mo has a lot of connections. Otherwise, why would Department Head Mo be the temporary vice president when General Lin went to recuperate?" After listening to Zhao Hongyan's speech, Yang Chen had a better understanding of the company's system. However, these things were already in the past, and he didn't take it to heart. After casually chatting for a while, Yang Chen threw himself into the game business. After playing 2 rounds of Lian Lian, Yang Cheng's phone rang. He looked at the number and saw that it was Tang Tang. He picked up the phone with a smile. Tang Tang's sweet voice came from the other end. "Uncle, I miss you so much." "I don't miss you." "Humph, you're still so boring." Tang Tang pouted and asked, "Uncle, what are you doing?" "We've been working on the computer system for the whole day. Those things are too stupid. I have nothing to do after I'm done. I'm so bored." "Find something to do if you're bored." "I'm working." "Work?" Tang Tang seemed to have discovered something new. She asked, "Uncle, what do you do at work?" "Games," Yang Chung answered honestly. Tang Tang giggled. "So you're an office worker. What games do you play?" "Wow. EQ, Miracle, or some pirated game." Yang Chung thought about it. He really didn't know what Lian Lian was. He said vaguely, "A high IQ game." "A high IQ game? What game?" "It's Pokemon Lian Lian. I can pass a few levels." Yang Cheng could only say the name. Tang Dang was silent for a long time. Suddenly, she burst into laughter. She was laughing nonstop on the other end of the phone. Even through the phone, one could tell how crazy the laughter was. Yang Cheng was depressed. Is it that funny? No matter what, it's one of the top few games on the list. I'm keeping up with the times. Tang Ding took a long time to control her laughter. She said, Uncle, you'll be despised by others if you do this. How can a handsome and wise man like you play such a game of little girls and aunties? Then what do I play? Yang Cheng was very happy with such praise. After all, it was the truth. A lot of games. It depends on what kind of games Uncle likes. It's real-time strategy games, sports games, shooting games, role-playing games, or business management games. Tang Tang said a lot of nouns that were unfamiliar to Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng wasn't stupid. He could probably understand the meaning of those nouns. Yang Cheng was too lazy to touch things like action and shooting games. He had enough in real life. He shouldn't touch games anymore. As for business management, he could save it. Herding cows was good. I like real-time strategy games. Is it something like war? Yes, it's fighting with people or computers, building houses, sending troops, and then fighting on the map. That sounds interesting. What's the name of the game? Yang Cheng asked. Tang Tang thought about it and said, Uncle, how about this? I have nothing to do in the afternoon. You can pick me up from school. I'll bring you to a place. Then, I'll introduce you to some fun games and teach you. Don't try to fool me. Don't you have to go to school? Why are you playing games? Yang Chen lectured like an adult. As for the fact that his graduation certificate was fake, he didn't even consider it. Tang Tang said coquettishly, Uncle, believe me, I really don't need to go to class. It's all computer lessons today. I've finished all the projects and can leave at any time. It won't affect my studies. Yang Chen's heart was also itching for that war game. During his years abroad, he had always been envious of the generals in the armies of other countries. Once they gave a command, all the troops would listen to them and start a large-scale battle. Although he could also command some people, most of the time he was alone. Furthermore, the people he could command weren't as orderly as the army, which made him feel a lot worse. Okay, I'll pick you up at the school entrance at 1 p.m. Yang Cheng agreed. Lin Ruoshi, who had just gotten out of the hospital and came to work, naturally heard about what happened at the company's entrance in the morning. However, she was calm and easily realized that something was wrong. At least, Mo Qian's way of doing things was extremely abnormal. However, Lin Ruoshi wasn't in a hurry to ask the person involved. She waited until she finished reviewing a pile of complicated documents. In the afternoon, she personally called Mo Qian and asked Mo Qian to come into the office to talk. Mo Qian wasn't in a bad mood. Instead, she had a sincere smile on her face. After walking into the office, she sat down on the big sofa and looked at Lin Ruoshi with an indifferent expression. She joked, General Lin worked so hard as soon as he got out of the hospital. What should we, the workers, do? Lin Ruoshi, who was wearing a moon-white bubble shirt, looked a little more youthful. It was easier to remember that this breathtakingly beautiful CEO was a young girl in her 20s. Lin Ruoshi looked at Mo Qian with concern for a long time. Qian, are you okay? Although she was very concerned, Lin Ruoshi's temperament made her words seem monotonous. Mo Qian smiled and shook her head. Do I look like someone who is not okay? That's good. Lin Ruoshi nodded and said casually, What you did this morning was a little abnormal. Mo Qian wasn't surprised. The two had been friends for so many years. Lin Ruoshi knew her as well as she knew her. Others might not be able to see through the fake Mo Qian, but she could naturally find the abnormality. In order not to make the matter bigger, Mo Qian had already made up her mind to keep the matter a secret. She didn't panic and explain with a smile, I didn't expect it either. I couldn't control myself at that time. Maybe I was really too angry. Lin Ruoshi nodded and casually asked, Have you known Yang Cheng for a long time? This question was a little mysterious. As Yang Cheng's legal wife, Lin Ruoshi didn't question Mo Qian when she heard that Mo Qian was intimate with Yang Cheng and was called a lover. Instead, she indirectly asked about this topic. Mo Qian felt guilty in her heart. But as long as she thought of the word that Yang Cheng said, she couldn't help but feel guilty. She knew that she couldn't deny it completely, so she didn't feel too embarrassed. Actually, we haven't known each other for a long time. We're just in a superior and subordinate relationship. Ruashi, you should know that I'm not a casual person. Mo Qianni didn't answer yes, nor did she deny it. Such an answer, to a large extent, had already declared that she admitted it. She wasn't a casual person. So if there was, then it meant that she was serious. Both of them were intelligent, smart, and proud women. Sometimes, they just needed to hit the nail on the head. Lin Ruashi felt uncomfortable in her heart again, but she felt that it was obviously impossible for her to be jealous of her disappointing husband. To a greater extent, Lin Ruashi felt that she was sad that her good sister in front of her had a good impression of Yang Cheng. What was so good about that man? Even a rational woman like Qianni would fall into the quagmire. Seeing that Lin Ruashi didn't speak, Mo Qianni was worried that she was angry with her. She was a little embarrassed and added in a low voice, "Ruashi, don't be angry. There's nothing between us. Maybe it's just my impulse. He didn't do anything wrong to you, really." Lin Ruashi felt funny. One of her only good sisters actually had a good impression of her useless husband, and she even apologized to her in fear for that man. Would she be angry with her good sister for such an incompetent man? Stop joking. Qianni, don't be agitated. I'm not angry with you. I just hope that you can see some facts clearly. He's not worth your effort. Lin Ruashi sighed. Mo Qianni was stunned. She didn't understand why Lin Ruashi, as her wife, would say such words calmly. She smiled bitterly. I also know that he's a very unreliable person, but there are some things that can't be controlled by reason. Lin Ruashi knitted her brows. She could hear the traces of sweetness in Mo Qianni's words, and her heart became more and more uncomfortable. She was a little annoyed. She really hoped that the man who brought her so many headaches would stand in front of her and clarify everything. It would be best. It would be best if he and her good sister. It's impossible. Lin Ruashi pressed a button on the desk. Soon, Wu Yu, who was dressed in a neat black suit, walked in. General Lin, what's the matter? Wu Yu, call Yang Cheng from the Public Relations Department to the office. Department head Mo, and I have something to ask him. Lin Ruashi ordered. The secretary in charge, Wu Yu, had already guessed that Lin Ruashi might call Yang Cheng. So she had already called the Public Relations Department to understand the situation. General Lin, Yang Cheng left the company a quarter of an hour ago. Where did he go during working hours? Lin Ruashi and Mo Qianni looked at Wu Yu in surprise. Wu Yu replied with an expressionless face. According to the information provided by the Public Relations Department, Yang Cheng went out to play games. Lin Ruashi's beautiful face instantly darkened, while Mo Qianni, who was standing beside her, also revealed an expression of disappointment. Mud can't help a wall. Lin Ruashi sighed in disappointment. She even had the urge to smash something. But in the end, she closed her eyes tiredly and waved her hand to ask Wu Yu to leave. It was as if all the strength in her body had been used up at this moment. Seeing Lin Ruashi's miserable look, Mo Qianni only felt that she was also responsible. She silently lowered her head and blamed herself more and more in her heart. Chapter 116. When Yang Cheng drove his car to Zhonghai's number 1 middle school, it was still early to meet up with Tang Tang. Therefore, after Yang Cheng leisurely got off the car, he silently smoked by himself at the school gate and thought about some things. Many students and teachers saw this man standing next to a brand new BMW with a cigarette in his mouth. They all had a thoughtful look on their faces, obviously thinking about something like keeping. Yang Cheng didn't know much about this. When he saw many people looking at him, he thought it was because he was dressed particularly well today and his domineering aura leaked out. Just as Yang Cheng finished his first cigarette and was about to continue, a slim figure dressed in a skimpy outfit walked out from the school gate. She wore a blue and white checkered tunic top and a light-colored skin-tight, cropped denim pants. At the same time as it outlined her perfect curves, a pair of white calves were especially eye-catching. Jing. Yang Cheng stopped the girl. He was originally considering whether or not to go into the school to take a look, But he didn't expect Li Jingjing to come out at this time. When he saw old Li's family eating with Jiang Shuo in the restaurant, he felt that Li Jingjing's mood wasn't right. However, since old Li and his wife were present, he couldn't say anything. Moreover, Li Jingjing obviously didn't want to talk to him. Because he was busy these days, he accidentally forgot to take the initiative to contact Li Jingjing. Perhaps he didn't have the habit of taking the initiative to contact girls, so he had a lot of questions that he didn't clear up. Li Jingjing unexpectedly saw Yang Cheng. Her eyes revealed a bit of surprise. She walked forward and asked hopefully, "Brother Yang, why are you here? Are you waiting for me?" Looking at the girl's hopeful look, Yang Cheng felt that he was very cruel, but he still told the truth. I'm waiting for someone. It's a student from the school. We made an appointment to play a game." "Oh." Li Jingjing lowered her head in disappointment, and then quietly stood there without saying a word. Yang Cheng smiled awkwardly. "It's just a little kid. I also have nothing to do, so we want to play a game. Actually, I'm not very familiar with her." Li Jingjing forced a smile. "Brother Yang, you're leading our school's students astray. As a teacher, should I drive you away?" She took the initiative. "I was the passive one," Yang Cheng argued. "Is it a boy or a girl?" Li Jingjing whispered. "A girl, just a silly little girl." Yang Cheng didn't hide anything. Li Jingjing's eyes were filled with hidden bitterness. "Brother Yang, this isn't good. You're married, so you shouldn't mess around with so many girls. Besides, she's still a high school student. She still has a long life ahead of her. She needs to study hard. It's not what you think. We're just normal friends. She said that she doesn't need to go to class today, so she came out to play games with me. I will not mislead her. Don't worry, Teacher Li," Yang Cheng said with an embarrassed smile. Li Jingjing nodded and became silent again, but anyone could see the grievance on her small face. Yang Cheng sighed and asked, "I saw your family having a meal with that Jiang guy at the restaurant last time. Was it about you and him?" Li Jingjing bit her lips and Mom and Dad wanted to go out with Team Leader Jiang. Team Leader Jiang has been chasing after me. I don't know what to do." "Do you like him?" Yang Cheng asked. I don't know." Li Jingjing shook her head. "I don't hate Team Leader Jiang. Although he's a bit too flamboyant sometimes, I don't think he's a bad person. Moreover, he treats me really well. Mom and Dad have suffered all their lives. I want them to live a good life. I don't have the heart to reject them, so I'm still considering it." "Your mom should have told you not to contact me anymore," Yang Cheng asked with a smile. Li Jingjing raised her head in surprise. "Brother Yang, how did you know?" "Because you're a person who doesn't lie. That day, I saw your face change. You just wouldn't talk to me, so I guess that you must have something on your mind." Li Jingjing faintly said, "If you knew I had something on my mind, you wouldn't have called to show concern for me. I thought Brother Yang was angry with me and planned to ignore me from now on." These soft words made Yang Cheng feel guilty. It seemed that he didn't care enough about the women around him. Perhaps it was because of his male chauvinism. He felt that there were some things that he didn't need to care too much about, so he rarely cared about women's subtle feelings. He didn't think that Li Jingjing would always be concerned about him making one less call. Actually, it's not a bad thing. Maybe I'm not used to it. Maybe one day I'll really like Team Leader Jiang, Li Jingjing said. After all, people's feelings can always be slowly cultivated. I can't live an unrealistic life. I have to have my own life. Yang Cheng was stunned. He didn't think that Li Jingjing would suddenly say something like this. In this way, he couldn't say anything more. After all, the path of her life was still up to her. Even if he felt that Jiang Shuo wasn't reliable, he couldn't just say it out loud. While sweating, he comforted her. "You've only been a teacher for such a short period of time, and the way you speak has changed. But I'm happy for you." Li Jingjing mischievously rolled her eyes at him. "If you don't think like that, I can't cry every time I see you, can I?" Looking at the girl's bright and beautiful face under the sunlight, Yang Cheng wanted to reach out and pinch her cheeks, but he immediately felt that he shouldn't. After all, she wasn't anyone to him. If he kept doing this kind of intimate action, then he wouldn't be able to explain it. He could only put his hands in his pants pockets. The atmosphere between the two was unusually awkward. Even when they were strangers meeting for the first time, it wasn't as difficult to speak as it was now. At this moment, A girl wearing a bright yellow jacket and a black short skirt ran out of the school gate. After seeing Yang Cheng, she happily waved and shouted, "Uncle, who are you chatting with?" Tang Tang, who was still brimming with youthfulness, seemed to be exceptionally happy. She practically skipped over Yang Chun, but when she saw Li Jingjing, who was beside Yang Chun, Tang Tang's captivating red lips formed in a shape, just like a startled rabbit. "Li, teacher Li, why are you here?" Tang Tang grinned awkwardly. Li Jingjing looked like she understood and said with a smile, "So the student brother Yang is waiting for is Tang Tang. What a coincidence." Yang Cheng was stunned for a moment. Then he suddenly realized, "This girl is your student?" "I'm her class teacher." Li Jingjing looked at Tang Tang playfully and revealed some of the dignity of a teacher. "Tang Tang, I've told you many times that you have to study hard in your third year of high school. You can't keep thinking about playing games. If you do this again, I'll call your mother and tell her." "Io." Tang Tang reached out and hugged one of Li Jingjing's arms. She shook it and said coquettishly, "Teacher Li, I'm done with the computer test today. I'll go play with Uncle. I promise I won't play, and I'll hand in my homework on time. Besides, didn't I get top 10 in the last monthly test? I'll definitely get into the key subjects, don't worry. You're always using my mother to oppress me. You're too cruel to me. Don't be arrogant when you win. Don't be discouraged when you lose. How can you be so arrogant?" Li Jingjing lectured seriously. Tang Tang raised both of her hands in surrender. "Teacher Li, Beauty Li, please let me go. I've already made an appointment with Uncle. Moreover, Teacher Li knows Uncle. Please let me go for Uncle's sake this time." As she said that, Tang Tang nudged Yang Cheng again, hinting for Yang Cheng to speak. Yang Cheng frowned, thinking that this girl was indeed hiding something. However, he could only play along and said, "Jingjing, I think we should forget about it this time. It's fine to relax a little. I'll supervise her and make sure she doesn't go overboard." Li Jingjing didn't want to reject Yang Cheng's request and could only nod. "All right then, but Tang Tang, you have to go home on time. Don't let your mother worry." "Don't worry," Tang Tang giggled. "I promise I won't disappoint teacher and mother. Is that okay?" Li Jingjing jokingly scolded her, "Little fairy," and didn't say anything else. Tang Tang was like an escaped prisoner. She dragged Yang Cheng and immediately rushed to the car, afraid that Li Jingjing would go back on her words and let her stay in school to study. Yang Cheng smiled bitterly and greeted Li Jingjing, then sat in the car. Until the car disappeared into the distant street corner, Li Jingjing, who was silently sending the two off, sighed softly and slowly turned around. Her back view seemed a little desolate as she left alone. At the same time, Tang Tang, who was sitting in the car, patted her chest. "That was close, that was close." "Uncle, how did you happen to know Teacher Li? You scare me to death." "I'm friends with your Teacher Li's father," Yang Cheng explained. "Really?" Tang Tang said doubtfully. "But why do I see Teacher Li staring at Uncle like a resentful wife?" "Uncle, did you do something to let our Teacher Li down?" "Did I?" Yang Cheng really didn't notice the deep resentment in Li Jingjing's eyes. He laughed dryly. "How is that possible? I'm a married man." Tang Tang pouted. "Uncle, stop pretending. There are too many men cheating on women these days. My mother told me that there aren't many good men, especially in this city. They're all beasts with human faces." "Hey, don't slander me. I'm not that kind of person," Yang Cheng said with a straight face. He silently said in his heart, "This is all for the good of the child." Tang Tang giggled. "Uncle, what's the rush? I'm not talking about you. But to be honest, if Uncle really gets Teacher Li, then I won't have to worry so much." "Uncle, you don't know. Ever since Teacher Li became our class teacher, I've been under strict control, and Teacher Li often contacts my mother. How can I stand it?" Yang Cheng didn't expect Li Jingjing to be so good as a teacher. It was obvious that she could control this problematic girl. He smiled and asked Tang Tang, "Stop complaining. Tell me where to go first." Tang Tang pouted. A sweet dimple appeared on her white face. Zhonghai Esports Center. Chapter 117. If it wasn't for Tang Tang bringing Yang Cheng to watch, Yang Cheng would probably never have known that there were people in this world who relied on playing games to become professionals. Of course, they definitely weren't some random white-collar gamer like him. They were esports players that belonged to the national athletes. To put it simply, they relied on playing a relatively popular game to compete. Usually, they represented their club, and in international competitions, they represented their national team. Yang Cheng knew that popular sports such as football and basketball had such a group, but he didn't expect that they would also exist in games. Within the Zhonghai Esports Center, there was naturally an esports team that belonged to Zhonghai. The design was avant-garde, and the three-dimensional arena was divided into various training and competition areas. However, there weren't any ball games or sports props used here. Instead, there were rows and rows of powerful computers. There was an endless stream of young people coming and going in the arena. Most of them looked to be around 20 years old, and some even looked to be 15 or 16 years old. Not only were they full of youthful energy, but even their speech and mannerisms were much more mature than the average person. Within the different arenas, there were groups of esports players that were rapidly pressing their mouse and keyboards. Yang Cheng couldn't understand what they were playing at all, because all they needed to do was press the mouse. You're saying that all these people do is play games? As he walked, Yang Cheng looked around in disbelief. There is actually such a good thing in this world, playing games and earning money at the same time. Tang Tang looked at Yang Cheng with slight disdain. Uncle, you're really behind the times. A few years ago, esports became a recognized professional sports competition around the world. Don't look at these people just because they're 16 or 17 years old. Even the weakest among them is a national second-class athlete. Some of them even enter the national team. They're very famous in the esports circle. This profession is good. I want to change it, Yang Cheng said enviously. In his heart, he was wondering if there were any professional players in Lianquan. Tang Ting didn't know what Yang Cheng was thinking. If she knew, she would have vomited blood and died. She explained, Uncle, don't think that being a professional player is that easy. Just look at the teams in this arena. Although they all have the financial support of some companies, they definitely can't be compared to other popular sports. It's already pretty good if they have millions of dollars invested every year. Every team member is given a salary, but in fact, everyone's salary isn't as high as that of a white-collar worker in an ordinary company. The ones who can really make a lot of money are the top players. Not only are their salaries high, but they can also earn a few million a year from endorsements and prize money for competitions. However, the vast majority of players can barely get by. Yang Chun suddenly understood. It seems like it's an unpopular profession. Yang Chun thought of the benefits and treatment in Yulei International and the army of beautiful girls and hurriedly dispelled that thought. He asked, "Where are you bringing me to?" Tang Tang giggled. "Uncle, do you remember who was there when we first met?" Yang Chun thought for a moment and said, "You mean those two little followers of yours? Why haven't I seen those two kids since then?" "It's not them," Tang Tang said angrily. "Those two little rascals are too boring. I kicked them away a long time ago. I'm talking about Brother Yuanya. He's the big brother with the bodyguards." Yang Cheng then remembered, the young man who drives the Audi R8? What about him? Brother Yuanya is the boss of Zhonghai's Warcraft team. He's also the team's captain, Tang Tang said with a little pride. He's also the esports player you mentioned. Yang Cheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He already has the money to drive a $2 million R8. Why would he want to be an athlete? I like it. Brother Yuanya likes to play Warcraft. His family is against him. I'm the only one who supports him, Tang Tang said while waving her little fist. The children of the rich were often more useless than the children of the poor. This was not because they were stupid, but because they lacked motivation. Their overly superior material foundation allowed them to see a future of luxury and a lifetime of glory and splendor from a young age. Their efforts seemed powerless, and they would still walk the path that they should walk. As for their parents' talk of donating their inheritance to public welfare after death, they could go to hell with it. That's just an excuse to avoid inheritance tax. Yuanya was also very rich since he was young. In fact, money was basically no different than a number to him. However, Yuanya didn't squander his youth like other rich young masters of his age. He fell in love with esports and the game Warcraft. As a result, he spent money to buy Zhonghai's Warcraft team. Relying on his hard work and innate qualities, He successfully entered the ranks of the national team and became a famous player. Although he was still a distance away from his dream of becoming a world champion, Yuanya lived a much more fulfilling life than other rich kids. He didn't seem to be useless. At least he had his own career. However, this success didn't change the fact that his family was against him playing games as a career. Even if Yuanya insisted and his family didn't interfere, it was still a painful thing to not have the understanding and support of his family. Fortunately, Yuanya had a friend's little sister who supported him since he was young. That girl was Tang Tang. What could be happier than having a career that you love and being supported by a girl who also loves you? However, when a young man who had beautiful expectations for a young girl suddenly discovered that this girl gradually mentioned other men in front of him, and in the end, she actually brought another man to see him, the young man's heart would definitely feel uncomfortable. At this moment, Yuanya was like this. When he saw Tang Dang pulling Yang Chung into the spacious training room with a bright smile on her face and walking towards him, Yuanya's heartstrings began to tighten, and an inexplicable sense of danger emerged. "Brother Yuanya, look who I brought." Tang Tang, who was in a good mood, didn't notice the subtle changes in Yuanya. "Hello, we meet again." Due to his good upbringing, Yuanya quickly put away that momentary abnormality and extended his hand to Yang Chung in a gentle and refined manner. Yang Chung shook hands with him briefly. He noticed Yuanya's vigilance and nervousness at that moment and laughed inwardly. "You don't seem very happy to see me." "Of course not. I'm just curious why Tang Tang would bring you here. I've heard Tang Tang mention you a lot recently." "Thank you for saving Tang Tang once," Yuanya said sincerely. Yang Chung had a higher opinion of Yuanya. Without a certain amount of social experience, he wouldn't be able to face the appearance of a love rival so calmly, and even be able to speak with such sincerity. Seeing that the two of them were speaking very politely, Tang Tang impatiently went straight to the point. "Brother Yuanya, Uncle is too behind the times. He even plays games for little girls. I brought him here to watch you guys play Warcraft, so that he can broaden his horizons." Hearing this ridiculous reason, Yuanya felt much better. He felt that he still had an advantage, and smiled warmly. "All right then, Tang Tang, show Mr. Yang around. Our team members are all training, but it will be over in about an hour. I'll look for you guys to play then." Naturally, Yang Chung didn't mind. He was already a little interested in the colorful game on the computer screen in front of him. Following Tong Tong's instructions, he began to run to an empty computer and began to listen to Tong Tong's explanation. Although Tang Dang wasn't a professional player, she was also an amateur when it came to playing games because of Yuanya's influence. She explained the basic information of Warcraft to a rookie like Yang Chung, and also guided Yang Chung on how to play. She was able to explain everything clearly and logically. Yang Cheng's memory was far better than ordinary people. Although there were many things that he couldn't understand, as long as he heard it, he could forcibly remember it. So after waiting for half an hour, he had basically grasped the basic knowledge of the game. While he was surprised that the game could be so complicated, Yang Cheng also felt a little itchy to try it out. Tang Tang saw through Yang Cheng's thoughts and asked uncertainly, "Uncle, do you really want to try it out? Everything I said just now was just theory. It's a different matter when it comes to actually playing. Control, awareness, and tactics are all indispensable. I'll give it a try. I more or less understand it," Yang Cheng said implicitly. The first time he played was naturally on the computer. The main thing was to familiarize himself with the specific controls. Yang Cheng was also too lazy to choose a race, so he used random. This was because, in Yang Cheng's opinion, every race had its own interesting aspects. He could try it out, and there was no such thing as whether it suited him or not. Tang Tang sat next to Yang Cheng. Originally, she wanted to be a commander and teach Yang Cheng well. Beginners would always be forgetful. If it wasn't for building buildings, it would be forgetting to deploy troops. However, when Yang Cheng started playing, Tang Tang realized that there was no need for that at all. Yang Cheng seemed to have memorized the steps of the battle a long time ago. Every step was exactly the same as what she had said before. Even as time passed, his other hand began to skillfully press the keyboard's shortcut keys, just like a veteran. "Uncle, are you messing with me? You already knew how to play, didn't you? Tang Ding patted Yang Cheng's shoulder timidly. Yang Cheng shook his head, his eyes never leaving the computer screen. Absolutely not. This is the first time I've heard of this game, but it seems to be quite fun. After more than 10 minutes, Yang Cheng commanded a large group of low-level troops to wipe out the simple computer enemies. He moved his fingers, smiled at Tang Tang, and said, "Looks like it's time to play the mid-level computer." Tang Tang looked as if she had seen a monster. Her big, watery eyes were filled with surprise. "Uncle, you're the first person I've seen who can beat the computer on their first try." Time passed very quickly. Under Tang Tang's unwavering gaze, Yang Cheng quickly transformed from a newbie to a player who could oppress the crazy computer. The time it took him did not exceed an hour. In fact, Yang Cheng realized that the most basic aspects of playing this kind of game were the precise calculation of time and the microcontrol of the troops. His brain and body could easily handle these two aspects, so it was especially easy for him to get started. When Yuan Yi finished with the team's training and came to Yang Cheng and Tang Tang's side, Yang Cheng was already using Tang Tang's BattleNet account to fight against the people on an online battle platform, and he was nearing the end of his victory. Yuan Yi frowned. "Tang Tang, didn't you say that Mr. Yang doesn't know how to play? He's very skilled." Tang Tang was already stunned watching. "Brother Yuan Yi, haven't you been looking for a Warcraft genius? Uncle seems to be." Following that, Tang Tang briefly recounted what happened in the past 2 hours, and by the end, even she found it unbelievable. Yuan Yi looked suspicious. Seeing that Yang Cheng had just finished playing, he said to Yang Cheng, "Mr. Yang, why don't we play a round? I think you've learned enough." Yang Cheng was at the top of his game, and he nodded without saying anything. After the two entered the game together, within a few minutes, all kinds of harassment and restraints began. Tang Tang, who was watching from the side, was a little dazzled, but she was extremely shocked. If it was Yuan Yi teasing Yang Cheng, it would have been fine, but no matter how she looked at it, the two of them were fighting back and forth, and it was hard to separate. Yang Cheng had clearly just learned it. When the big scene of the match reached the end, Yuan Yi finally defeated Yang Cheng with his financial advantage, and only then did he let out a long sigh. Tang Tang, who was watching excitedly, could not help but ask, "Uncle, why didn't you open a mine? If you open a mine, you will have money to continue playing." Yang Cheng touched his head and smiled awkwardly. "I forgot that I can still open a mine. I won't next time." Hearing this, Yuan Yi finally realized that Yang Cheng was really a beginner, but a beginner used such a short time to reach such a level. Wasn't it too amazing? Although Yuan Yi was a little shocked and unwilling, he was even more excited. He could clearly feel that Yang Chen's strength was far from what he had shown. If he could get Yang Chen into his team, then wouldn't there be great hope for him to win the national championship, or even obtain a ranking in the international tournament? "Mr. Yang, I don't know if you have ever thought about joining the professional league. I think you have the ability to do so." Yuan Yi did not care about being rude and asked anxiously. Yang Cheng smiled. "I'm just playing a game. I have no other thoughts. I can provide a very high salary, definitely higher than your current salary." Yuan Yi added anxiously. Yang Cheng was a little unhappy, but he also knew that the other party did not do it on purpose. "I don't lack money." Yuan Yi finally realized that he was too impolite and apologized with a smile. "I'm sorry. It's mainly because I was too excited." "Then, can I ask Mr. Yang to give me your contact information? I hope to have a chance to practice with Mr. Yang in the future. Only by playing with experts can I continue to improve." Of course, this was no problem. Yang Cheng still wanted to find someone to play with in the future, so he happily wrote down the MSN number given by the company and his mobile phone to Yuan Yi. Just then, Tang Tang's phone suddenly rang. Tang Tang looked at the number and picked it up with a face full of resentment. "Hey, sister, what's wrong?" "Okay, I know. I'm not fooling around. I'm playing with brother Yuan Yi." Okay, I'll go back now." After Tang Tang hung up the phone dejectedly, she smiled helplessly at Yang Cheng and said, "Uncle, I have to go home or my sister will go crazy. Can you send me first?" Yang Cheng looked at the clock on the wall, and it was actually almost 5 in the afternoon. It was indeed time to go home. So he stood up and said goodbye to Yuan Yi. Yuan Yi was a little regretful that he could not play a few more rounds with Yang Cheng, but he was more concerned that Tang Ding actually let Yang Cheng center instead of him. Yang Cheng took advantage of Tang Tang's inattentiveness and patted Yuan Yi's shoulder, whispering, "Don't misunderstand. I'm her uncle. It's not possible. You have to work hard." Yuan Yi's old face blushed when his thoughts were seen through, but he still nodded gratefully at Yang Cheng. Yuan Yi didn't forget to remind Yang Cheng to keep in touch with him all the way until they left the arena. It was obvious that he had already treated Yang Cheng as a true friend. Perhaps from Yuan Yi's point of view, those who could fight Warcraft together were considered good friends. Yuan Yi loved his line of work very thoroughly. When he got into the car, Yang Cheng suddenly remembered something and asked Tang Tang, puzzled, "Didn't you say you were test tube baby? Why do you have a sister? Did your mother give birth to test tube babies twice?" Tang Tang burst into laughter. "The sister I'm talking about is my mother." "Your mother?" Yang Cheng was confused. "Yeah," Tang Tang said stubbornly and proudly. "Mother was still very young when she gave birth to me, so when we walked out of the house, she made sure that I couldn't call her mother. I had to call her sister. She was afraid that people would think I was old. Although I was young, I was very angry. She was my mother. Why did she force me to call her sister? Can't I have a mother?" So when I grew up and became sensible, I specifically called her sister, sister. She finally realized that something was wrong and wanted me to call her mother, but I didn't want to. I often called her sister from time to time. She had a headache over this problem too. The corner of Yang Cheng's lips curled up. Looking at the blissful young girl at the side, he suddenly felt a little envious of the warmth between this pair of young mother and daughter. Having a mother is actually a very happy thing, right? Yang Cheng thought. Chapter 118. Because it was rush hour when Yang Cheng drove to the villa area in the western suburbs that Tang Tang mentioned, it had already been more than an hour, and the sky was getting dark. The greenery in the western suburbs was particularly rich, and the dark shade of the trees covered the road, making the white BMW look particularly eye-catching. But obviously, such high-end villa areas had a common problem. There was no one on the road. According to Tang Tang's guidance, they came to a small villa. The house was brightly lit, and there was someone waiting at home. "Thank you, Uncle. I'll have to start studying again in a while. You have to miss me." Tang Tang blinked her large eyes as she looked at Yang Cheng and said, unwilling to part. Yang Cheng reached out and touched the girl's soft hair, laughing and scolding. "Why would I miss you? Little girl, get out of the car. Don't let your sister—" "Oh no, your mom wait too long." "Pfft, sister is sister. She can forget about being a mom in this life." Tang Tang snorted stubbornly. After opening the door and getting out of the car, she even blew a kiss to Yang Cheng before closing the door and running toward the house. Yang Cheng saw Tang Tang push the door open and enter the house safely. He breathed a sigh of relief and looked at the time in the car. It was almost 6 o'clock in the evening. Remembering that he still had things to do at night, he immediately stepped on the gas and quickly left the villa. She walked into the house quietly. The pine floor of the house was covered with a soft Mediterranean carpet. Tang Tang took off her pink flat canvas shoes, revealing the cute white cotton socks with cartoon patterns inside. She stepped on the carpet and moved toward the sofa in the living room. Slowly leaning forward, Tang Tang saw a familiar figure lying on the soft Chivas leather sofa. His slightly wavy long hair was draped over his shoulders and fell to the smooth floor tiles. His body was curvy and curvy. That towering and perky arc was enough to make most women gnash their teeth in jealousy. The graceful and charming girl was holding a copy of Tokugawa Ieyasu in her hand. She gently turned a page and suddenly said, "When did our Tang Tang swordswoman become so careful even when going home?" "I'm not being careful. I'm being wary of any traps." "Come here, there are no landmines," the girl said with a smile. Seeing that the young woman wasn't angry, Tang Tang patted her chest in relief and walked to the young woman's side with a sweet smile. She knelt on the carpet and stroked the young woman's silky black hair with both hands. "My good sister, you really are getting younger and more beautiful. In a few years, our ages will change." "Little rascal, you know you're late, so you've learned to flatter me." The young woman lovingly stretched out her white finger and tapped the tip of Tong Tong's nose. She looked at the young girl with a gaze full of tenderness. How many times have I told you to call me Mom, not Big Sister? You're the one who asked me to call you Big Sister. I won't call you Mom. Mom is so old. My big sister, you're so young. Tang Tang pouted. The young woman sat up, put down the book, and helped Tang Tang to sit on the sofa with both hands. She said with a bit of dignity, "That was when you were young. At that time, I was also young and insensible. But that was wrong. Now that you've grown up and become sensible, how can you always call Mom as Big Sister? Won't it be embarrassing if others hear it? It's not a big deal. I like to call you Big Sister. Big Sister is good. There's no generation gap." Tang Tang smiled mischievously. "Tang Tang, be good and call me Mom." The young woman continued to fight. "If you're not good, I want to be your little sister. I'm your mom. How can you not listen to me?" The young woman frowned and said angrily. Tang Tang pouted and shook her head. "No, you're not Mom. I'll call you Big Sister, Big Sister, Big Sister. Why aren't you Mom?" The young woman became anxious and raised her voice a few degrees. "You unlucky child. How can I describe you? Do you know how long you've been in my belly? I've been pregnant for 10 months. You're the flesh and blood that came out of my belly. How can you not call me Mom?" "No," Tang Tang cried and threw herself into the young woman's arms. She hugged the young woman's soft and delicate waist. "I don't want to call you Mom. If I call you Mom, I don't have a dad. It's like I really came out of stone. Calling me Big Sister makes me feel better. At least I'm not lonely. I have sisters." Lao Ai's soft words were like raging waves beating against the shore, causing the girl's heart to tremble. A layer of mist gradually covered her eyes. Her hand trembled as she stroked her daughter's back. She lowered her head and kissed Tang Tang's hair. "I'm sorry, Tang Tang. Mom brought you into this world but can't give you Dad. Mom is sorry." Under the table lamp, the young mother and daughter hugged each other tightly. It was quiet and peaceful. When Yang Chung returned home, he could already smell the aroma of food wafting out of the house. Yang Chung, who had been hungry for the whole afternoon, naturally couldn't bear it anymore. He simply parked the car and ran straight into the house. Sure enough, Mother Wong had already brought the food to the dining table. There were several plates of white gourd ribs, broccoli tenderloin, roasted eggplant with soy sauce, and several other dishes, all steaming hot and fragrant. Lin Ruoshi, who was sitting on the sofa and reading the newspaper, saw Yang Chung rush into the house. Her delicate curved eyebrows slightly wrinkled, but she didn't say anything. She quietly stood up, walked to the dining table, and sat down. She called out to the kitchen, "Mother Wong, don't be busy. Come out and eat." Yang Chung felt a little warm in his heart. He smiled and asked, "Waiting for me to eat together? It's Mother Wong waiting for you, not me. I'm waiting for Mother Wong to eat together." After Lin Ruoshi said it in a roundabout way, she began to serve rice, ignoring Yang Chung. Mother Wong, who came out of the kitchen, smiled kindly and said, "Young master, don't listen to Mrs. Nonsense. In fact, Miss is waiting for you." After listening, Lin Ruoshi was a little impatient, but she didn't refute. She knew that Mother Wong was doing it out of kindness, so she began to eat with small bites. Yang Chung was also used to the coldness between husband and wife. He smiled gratefully at Mother Wong and rushed to fill a bowl for Mother Wong before filling a bowl for himself. The atmosphere at the dining table was a little strange. Lin Ruoshi was silent, as if she didn't exist at all. Mother Wong had been trying to get closer to the couple and talk more, but when she saw that Lin Ruoshi seemed to be in a bad mood, she didn't know what to say. Yang Chun was the most carefree as he shoveled the rice into his mouth. Wang Ma's culinary skills made him not have the mood to care about why Lin Ruoshi was so cold today. It didn't take long for him to finish a big bowl of rice before filling it to the brim. "Young master, if there's not enough rice, I can go in and eat some noodles," Mother Wong said with a smile, worried that Yang Chung wouldn't have enough to eat. Yang Chung shook his head. It's enough. I'll be full after this bowl." Lin Ruoshi said unhappily, "Mother Wong, why are you so nice to him? He only eats and doesn't work. He's just wasting the country's food if he eats too much." When Mother Wong heard that something was wrong, she immediately said anxiously, Miss, how can you say that? It's a good thing that young master has a good appetite. He has a good appetite, but I feel nauseous. Lin Roashi slammed her chopsticks on the table, stood up, and walked upstairs. She had been suppressing her anger since noon. This guy didn't work hard. Not only did he play games during office hours, he even went out to play games with others. Fine. He didn't even explain to her about his relationship with Emo Chini. Even if he didn't want to, she would bear with it. But that wasn't all. He played games outside and came home so late. He didn't even know to call home in advance. Not only did he make her and Mother Wong wait for him to eat, he didn't even give a single explanation before he started wolfing down his food. Lin Roashi wanted to stuff the bowl in her hand into this guy's mouth and let him eat to his heart's content. Everything happened too fast. Before Yang Cheng's brain could process what happened, Lin Roashi had already run upstairs and slammed the study room door. Mother Wong, did I do something wrong again? Yang Cheng was puzzled. Did she get angry because he ate too much? Mother Wong smiled bitterly and shook her head. Maybe Miss saw that you came home so late and didn't send her a letter, so she got anxious. Young master, don't take it to heart. Miss is so angry because she cares about you. This caring is quite scary. Yang Cheng smiled embarrassedly. Wang Ma hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully before saying, son-in-law, actually, Mrs. Anger isn't without reason. In the past, there was only Miss and me at home. Miss never needed to wait for anyone. She ate and went out when she went out. But now there's one more person at home. Miss cares about you, but you ignored Miss's feelings. You didn't send her a letter and came home an hour late. Miss might feel that you didn't respect her, so she got angry. Yang Cheng was silent. It seemed that he was indeed in the wrong. He nodded and said, how about this, Mother Wong? I'm used to being lazy in the past. I will work hard to change it now. But in the future, if I don't get home after dinner, then don't wait for me. I might forget to call when things get messy. Mother Wong responded with a smile and began to add more food for Yang Cheng. After eating, Yang Cheng looked at the time. It was just before 7:30. He could make it in time to go to Chiang Wei's Rose Bar. He didn't dare to forget what happened tonight. Otherwise, if something happened to Chiang Wei, he wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace for the rest of his life. After telling Mother Wong that he had something to do, Yang Cheng quickly drove away from the villa. Lin Ruashi, who was working in the study, heard the sound of a car starting downstairs through the open window. She frowned and put down her pen. She walked out of the study and looked downstairs. As expected, Yang Cheng was nowhere to be seen. Mother Wong, where did he go? Lin Ruashi hesitated and asked. Mother Wong was wiping the table. After listening, she smiled and said, it seems that Miss still cares about young master. In fact, it's good for young people to talk more. There's nothing to be angry about. Lin Ruashi didn't reply. She didn't want to say some things and make Mother Wong worry. Mother Wong was also used to Lin Ruashi's way of speaking. She continued to answer. Young master said that he is going to attend a banquet hosted by a friend. He might not be back tonight. He asked us not to wait for him. Banquet? Lin Ruashi took a deep breath and felt a little better. She sneered as if she was talking to herself. Wait for him? There's no need to wait for him. With that, Lin Ruashi turned around and returned to the study room, slamming the door shut with a loud bang. Chapter 119. The Elk Garden in the West District of Zhonghai. At first glance, people would think that it was a place for reindeer, but in reality, it was a high-end clubhouse close to the suburbs. There were a total of 3 Italian-style fortress-like buildings like the headquarters of a mafia family, full of a strong Gothic style. What was different from other places was that the surroundings were covered by lush trees, and it took nearly 10 minutes to drive from the main entrance, winding all the way to the inside of the garden. Usually, the members who could come here were basically businessmen and politicians with a reputation in Zhonghai. Although ordinary high-end clubhouses could have a good privacy environment, some people who didn't want others to spy on their private style could only feel more secure in such a hidden place. But tonight's guests were particularly sparse, as if they had secretly agreed to avoid tonight. Only a small number of guests quietly arrived outside the main building of the Elk Garden and walked into the venue hall. What made this square inch of land seem even more oppressive were the bodyguards in black and sunglasses standing outside the venue. Almost every 5 steps, there was a man standing there, coldly monitoring the passing guests and cars. A black Aston Martin slowly drove to the bottom of the stairs in front of the venue. The luxury car, made by an old British brand, was quiet and didn't make any noise. The round-faced little Zhao took off his bar underling attire and put on a suit. He respectfully got down from the front passenger seat and opened the door for the main character behind. A crystal-colored high heel stepped out of the door first, followed by a pair of jade-white legs. Gradually, a red and black evening gown appeared in everyone's vision, landing on the bright red carpet. Qiangwei gently brushed the hair hanging in front of her eyes. Her meticulously combed, long hair was coiled up to match the gown, leaving only a few strands of bangs swaying in the wind. On the left shoulder of the gown was a black lace Qiangwei flower, and on the other side, a delicate and white shoulder was exposed. The style of the gown was classic and elegant. The upper body was covered with exquisite black and red floral patterns, and the puffy lower hem was covered with a layer of complicated vine-like tulle popular during the Baroque period, making it look mysterious and sexy. The woman who always gave off a lazy and charming aura tonight was like an outstanding royal princess, enchanting as always, but not thirsty to play with. Many guests who were about to enter the venue knew Qiangwei. After all, she was one of the main characters of tonight's banquet, and also the powerful underworld queen of the West District. In a short few years, Red Thorn Society's control over the underground economy was already not inferior to West Union Society. As the spiritual leader and brain of Red Thorn Society, no matter if it was the underworld or the underworld, they all silently remembered the name Qiangwei. But at this moment, the underworld leader that appeared in front of them was so beautiful that it made people ecstatic. Yet, the underworld leader didn't have the slightest bit of the underworld. This made many men fantasize. Perhaps even the underworld would like a mortal gentleman, but this young family and is of the society, and in it are union and is and. Qiangwei sighed softly. She turned around and waved at the other figure in the car. Chen Rong, dressed in a plain white princess dress, walked out with a red face. Although she wasn't as enchanting as Qiangwei, she still had a unique and pure charm. However, the girl seemed to be very unused to revealing her shoulders and meticulous makeup. She was very shy and didn't dare to raise her head. Rong Rong, raise your head. You're very beautiful. Don't be afraid. Qiangwei encouraged her with a smile. Only then did Chen Rong muster up her courage. She discovered that the people around her were looking at her with appreciation. She was not being looked down upon. Only then did she calm down a little, but her blush did not diminish. Why don't you tell little Zhao why Brother Yang isn't here? Qiangwei said. Chen Rong gasped, blinked her eyes, and said uncertainly, Is it because I don't want to attract too much attention? Qiangwei looked at her approvingly, then slightly shook her head at little Zhao. You see, Rong Rong is so much younger than you, yet she can understand. When we grow a few more wits. Little Zhao awkwardly laughed. Didn't Brother Yang say that? How come I don't see him? With his methods, he can come in at any time. If he says he'll come, he'll definitely come. Let's go in first. Little Zhao didn't suspect anything, but was still a little worried. He said, Big sis, it's just the 3 of us, and we even brought Brother Yang who hasn't appeared. We don't have anything to defend ourselves with. Will something happen tonight? After all, this is West Union Society's territory. Since we're already here, we'll just take things as they come. What should happen will happen, and what shouldn't happen, it'll never happen. Little Zhao was confused again. He really couldn't figure out what she meant. He quickly caught up and whispered to Chen Rong, who was curiously observing the surroundings. Rong Rong, what does big sis mean? Chen Rong pretended to be mature and sighed. Brother little Zhao, what you should understand, you will naturally understand. What you don't understand, it's useless even if you say it. After saying that, the girl no longer paid attention to him. Why is another big sis? Little Zhao sighed bitterly. After entering the spacious banquet hall, the bright crystal chandelier illuminated the entire hall, as if it was daytime. The air was filled with the sweet smell of cocktails and the fragrance of the men and women's high-grade perfume. Sumptuous desserts and fruit buffets were neatly arranged on one side of the hall. Many waiters and waitresses dressed in waiter uniforms walked among the guests. Because tonight's banquet was essentially a meeting between the West and East Union Society's underground leaders, although many influential figures were invited, the number of people wasn't as large as other banquets. The sparse crowd stood on the dance floor, discussing some serious or trivial topics. The atmosphere was quite harmonious. Of course, the majority of people were still the West Union Society's people. Almost every West Union Society elder brought a few of their trusted subordinates to the banquet, chatting and laughing loudly with some of their partners from the Orthodox Society. Once Xiangwei appeared in the banquet hall, she attracted everyone's gazes. Astonishment, hatred, greed, playfulness, adoration, all sorts of emotions filled the guests. But no one dared to go up and strike up a conversation with Xiangwei. After all, no one could predict how the wind would blow tonight. Many people had previously received news that Xiangwei had been shot. Seeing a living and beautiful woman appear in the banquet hall, this rumor collapsed on itself. But even more people were flabbergasted that Xiangwei dared to enter the West Union Society's banquet alone. Although she knew that Dong Xingzhou father and son would come tonight, she had no choice but to come even if she had to give them face. But to walk in without any defenses, not bringing a strong and powerful man, and instead bringing a beautiful, unfamiliar girl. This Xiangwei's guts were too big. At this moment, a man dressed in waiter uniform walked in front of Xiangwei. "Beautiful lady, may I offer you a sincere glass of champagne to praise your beauty?" Hearing the familiar voice, Xiangwei turned her head. As expected, it was Yang Cheng. Holding a tray of champagne, he became a waiter. Raising a glass of sparkling wine, Xiangwei coquettishly glared at him like a happy little woman. She couldn't help but laugh. Could this be the legendary surprise? "How did you become a waiter?" "I'm in a bit of a rush. It's inconvenient to come in with you guys. But I couldn't think of a better way to sneak in without fighting. I'm just lucky that the owner of this outfit went out to throw out a bag of trash." "Yangji, you're so relaxed. I'm so nervous." "You're here to play," Xiao Zhao said in disbelief. Yang Cheng smirked at him. "Xiao Zhao, take off your clothes." "What?" Xiao Zhao covered his chest, looking like he was going to resist to the death. "You change into my vest, I'll change into your suit." Yang Cheng winked at him. Xiao Zhao's resistance was futile because Xiangwei had already signaled him to listen to Yang Cheng with her eyes. He could only follow Yang Cheng to a corner with a bitter expression. Once again becoming a waiter, Xiao Zhao, who couldn't change his fate, pulled a long face. He picked up the tray that Yang Cheng was holding, wiped his tears innocently, and went to work. "That outfit suits Xiao Zhaoji better," Chen Rong commented playfully. Yang Cheng was surprised that Xiangwei would bring Chen Rong along. It seemed like Xiangwei was determined to groom Chen Rong. Otherwise, she wouldn't have brought a girl to such a big event. He could only hope that tonight wouldn't be too exciting. If the girl couldn't take it, he wouldn't have the face to meet her brother. "Xiangwei, my daughter, you're finally here." This bright voice appeared arrogantly at Rose Bar not long ago. It was Situ Mingze. Situ Mingze, who was wearing a white tuxedo, looked cultured and elegant. His bright and handsome face didn't look like he was in his 50s. He was like the most classical gentleman in England, calm and collected. Behind him were a few big shots from West Union Society and a few of Situ Mingze's bodyguards. At Situ Mingze's side was a short man wearing a black suit. His appearance was much older than the others, and it was hard to say whether he was handsome or not, but his entire person seemed to be shrouded in a dark fog. The smile on his face was like that of a zombie that had crawled out of a coffin, giving people a feeling that it was very sincere. Xiangwei's smile disappeared without a trace. "I can't remember whether it was 2 or 3 years ago when I told you that I'm no longer your daughter." TSK, TSK. Situ Mingze didn't get angry at Rose's cold words and didn't give him any face. Instead, he warmly said, "What you saying? Blood is thicker than water. It's fine for you to quarrel and quarrel normally, but in front of your elders, It's not appropriate to talk to your father like this. With this father and daughter meeting, the simple banquet that had been going on for quite a while finally entered the main show. Quite a few guests had already begun to quietly gather around, paying attention to the conversation on stage. Xiang Wei didn't argue with Situ Mingze on this topic, and instead turned her gaze to the smiling and friendly short man at the side. You must be Dongxing Group's president, Mr. Zhou Guangyan, right? Zhou Guangyan modestly waved his hand, just like a loving uncle next door looking at the little girl next door. It's a blessing that Miss Xiang Wei recognizes this Zhou. But this Zhou has not been the president for many years, and is now the president of Dongxing Group. It's a pleasure to meet you. The meaning of the East Union's only underworld boss was very clear. This brother's level is higher than yours. Chapter 120. Is that so? Xiang Wei revealed a look of understanding and deliberately asked, could it be that Mr. Zhou Guangyan has already retired from the underworld and washed his hands of the underworld? Zhou Guangyan grinned and said, that's a little strange. I, Zhou, have never done anything. I've always worked conscientiously and conscientiously. I've worked hard with a large group of brothers in Dongxing to create the Dongxing Group that it is today. Miss Rose, you might have heard some biased comments. If a hoodlum shamelessly said he didn't steal a wallet, then the surrounding people would despise him because this guy really didn't know how to lie. But if it was Zhou Guangyan, a big boss who used bloody and sinister methods to unify the eastern region's underworld a few years ago, said that his past deeds were all fake and that he was very pure, the surrounding people wouldn't despise him for being shameless, because to say such shameless words, it was clear that he didn't care about his face at all. Xiang Wei finally realized what kind of person this legendary old man of Zhonghai's underworld was. A person who doesn't care about face is invincible. This saying was not false. It seems that Xiang Wei has offended Mr. Zhou. For Mr. Zhou to come to our western region to participate in this small banquet, I don't know what you are here for. Xiang Wei asked. If it weren't for the Zhou father and son, she wouldn't even need to care about Situ Mingze's invitation. Situ Mingze interrupted and said, Xiang Wei, you may not know, but Mr. Zhou's only son, Zhou Dongcheng, is the same age as you. Xiang Wei frowned. What's so strange about that? In front of everyone, Situ Mingze looked around and said, you're not young anymore. As your biological father, I haven't been able to take good care of you after your mother passed away. I want to arrange a good in-laws for you, and it just so happens that Mr. Zhou also has this thought, so I want to use this banquet to introduce you to. Situ Mingze's words were very loud and clear, and many of the surrounding guests had already heard it. They finally understood the main theme of today's event, and after listening to it, they all revealed looks of sudden understanding, putting on an act of praise and saying that this idea was excellent. But the faces of the people involved completely changed. A trace of haze flashed in Xiang Wei's eyes, and a trace of disdain appeared on the corner of her mouth. On the other hand, Situ Mingze and Zhou Guangyan were smiling amiably, as if they had already become elders waiting for their young children to get married, and had become good friends with Qin Jin. This plan was truly vicious. Yang Cheng, who followed behind Xiang Wei, secretly shook his head and sighed. This Situ Mingze's intentions were very clear. Since they were going to fight Red Thorn Society, even if they won, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. They might as well take drastic measures and directly ally with Dongxing to force Xiang Wei to marry Zhou Dongcheng. Like this, Dongxing and West Union Society would ally to destroy Red Thorn Society. Moreover, Xiang Wei couldn't resist, otherwise she would be attacked from both sides. Even if it was for her subordinates, Xiang Wei could only endure the humiliation. As for the alliance between Xiang Wei and Dongxing to deal with West Union Society, that was impossible. Not to mention the fact that Dongxing had a better chance of winning than West Union Society. Just based on their foundation, it was impossible for Situ Mingze to give up West Union Society. In the end, they would definitely fight to the death. Zhou Guangyan, this old fox, must have weighed the pros and cons. Since allying with West Union Society's Situ Mingze could push the boat with the current and obtain a large amount of benefits in the western region with minimal losses, why would he neglect the essentials and help a little girl like Xiang Wei? A schemer wouldn't reject a schemer, because both sides were schemers. That was the safest. An alliance that was constantly on guard would be safe and stable. If it was a few years ago, when there was only one West Union society in the Western region, Zhou Guanyin definitely wouldn't have any thoughts of interfering with the Western region. He would just be content with being the boss of the Eastern region. If he showed off too much, he would only be beaten up. But now, the Western region was divided into two, and he was the only one. If he didn't take advantage of the situation to nibble away at the Western region's cake, then he would be a tyrant of a generation. Miss Qiangwei might not understand my son very well. Our family's Dong Cheng has a gentle personality, and any girl that sees him will like him. I believe that if Miss Qiangwei can get along well with him, the marriage will be settled sooner or later. Zhou Guanyin advertised his son. We'll believe you just because you say it. Who knows? Maybe your son doesn't like women. Who is it? Zhou Guangyin's face darkened, and he immediately asked loudly. Yang Cheng raised his hand from behind and walked forward with a harmless smile. Mr. Zhou said that your son is so good. Why don't you bring him out to meet him? Zhou Guangyin squinted his eyes, and like two rays of lightning, he stared at Yang Cheng's face. What's your name, little brother? His name is Yang Cheng. He's one of my daughter's followers. Situ Mingzi smiled and took the lead to explain, then said to Qiangwei, My daughter, your subordinate's words aren't very pleasing to the ear. Shouldn't you discipline him? If you can't bear to do it, as a father, I can do it for you. No need. Qiangwei reached out and hugged Yang Cheng's arm and tightly stuck to it. She revealed a blissful smile. Yang Cheng is my lover, not my follower. As for your good intentions, the so-called in-laws, there's no need for that. Yang Cheng smiled bitterly. Originally, he planned to keep his relationship with Qiangwei a secret, but who knew that the other party would set up a blind date, and even angered Qiangwei. Under such circumstances, the two of them hugged each other, and their relationship was exposed. Yang Cheng's plan to disguise himself and sneak in was also wasted. The surrounding guests were all dumbfounded. They didn't expect that this unremarkable man was actually Qiangwei's lover. Seeing such a beautiful woman as docile as a little lamb in the arms of a man, all the men tightly grasped the wine glass in their hands, as if they wanted to crush the glass. The glass was the current Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng reached out and caressed Qiangwei's delicate face and lightly kissed her forehead. He then turned around and looked at Zhou Guangyin, who was already gloomy. Hey, you said so much about your son. Why isn't he here yet? He couldn't have washed up and gone to sleep, right? Zhou Guangyin coldly glanced at Situ Mingzi on the side. President Situ, what's going on with this young man? Mr. Zhou, rest assured, his brain isn't too good. I'll send someone to throw him out and send him to the mental hospital, and then we can continue to talk about our children. Situ Mingzi was very patient and said with a gentlemanly smile. But just when Situ Mingzi was about to give the order from the banquet hall's red carpet staircase, a figure walked down and loudly shouted, You're not allowed to be rude to my Yang Cheng. If this voice belonged to a woman, then it would be a bit rough, but if it belonged to a man, then these words would be too profound. Everyone looked at the staircase, and after seeing the person walking down, they were all stunned. Even Yang Cheng, who was mentally prepared, almost had his eyes pop out. They saw a woman wearing a pink off-shoulder evening gown walking down the stairs, wearing blue high heels. The woman's golden hair was like a European noble lady's, and after it was tied up in a princess style, she also wore a small diamond inlaid crown. She had the flavor of Audrey Hepburn. She had an exquisite oval face with light makeup, red lipstick, and fake eyelashes. Her big eyes, which were in the style of European and American smoky makeup, were particularly attractive. On her earrings hung a large crescent moon-shaped earring. On her bare chest, there was a string of pearl necklace. The pinkish-white lace-patterned bra wrapped around the two quivering snow-white peaks. Under the tight waist was a fluffy, white muslin skirt. With every step, the woman's body swayed like a water snake, and with a shy but confident smile, she walked all the way to the center of the crowd and stopped in front of Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng, this is what I meticulously dressed up for you today. Am I beautiful? I swear to God, Yang Cheng really felt that the woman in front of him was very beautiful, but it was very difficult for him to say it because the person in front of him was Zhou Dongsheng. What the hell? This guy could pretend to be anyone, but he had to pretend to be a woman. Moreover, he was as beautiful as a princess from a Western fairy tale. I'm not good-looking as a man, but this guy can be good-looking as a woman. After holding back for a long time, Yang Cheng sighed and smiled bitterly. Beautiful. You're very beautiful. Zhou Dongchang smiled sweetly and clapped her hands in an incomparably girlish manner. I'm so happy. My results have been praised by you. At this time, Zhou Guangyan, who was already trembling with anger, finally couldn't hold it in anymore and cursed, "Bastard! What the hell are you doing? Quickly take off this disgusting dress." Situ Mingze, who was at the side, also had a strange expression. It was obvious that what happened was beyond his expectations. "Dear father," Zhou Dongqing's voice instantly became cold, and her charming eyes glanced at Zhou Guangyan. "You're old, and there's a problem with your taste. Don't you realize that your daughter, is very beautiful? Just now, Yang Cheng praised me. Daughter?" Everyone present finally came back to their senses. Many of them had previously heard that Zhou Guangyan's son, Zhou Dongsheng, had a problem with his sexual orientation, but they didn't expect it to be to this extent. Not only did he pretend to be a woman in public, he even called himself a daughter. As a result, all kinds of gazes were exchanged. Some were filled with praise, some were filled with contempt. Zhou Guangyan's face flushed red, and the corner of his mouth twitched, but he was stunned speechless. Zhou Dongsheng didn't care at all, and happily asked Yang Cheng, "Yang Cheng, do you think I'm beautiful? Or is the Qiangwei in your arms more beautiful?" Yang Cheng was already struck by lightning, but since he was immune to it, he was fine. After thinking carefully, he smiled and said, "To be honest, based on appearance alone, it seems that you're more beautiful." As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Cheng felt the soft flesh on his waist being fiercely pinched by Qiangwei. It was obvious that the woman was unhappy. Yang Cheng couldn't do anything about it. When this Zhou Dongsheng put on a woman's makeup, other than his but not being as perky as Qiangwei's, the other parts of his body had reached a level that normal beauties couldn't reach. He was simply a living demon. "The name I gave myself is Chanel. I hope that you can call me Miss Chanel in the future." Zhou Dongsheng charmingly winked at Yang Cheng. "Chanel?" Yang Cheng couldn't help but laugh. "Isn't that the name of a fashion brand? But she's also a beautiful lady who pursues fashion, my idol. So I also want to call her Chanel," Zhou Dongsheng said with yearning. Situ Mingze's face was gloomy, and he forced a smile and said, "Young Master Zhou, please don't joke around anymore. Today, we're discussing the marriage between you and my daughter, Qiangwei." Zhou Dongsheng wrinkled her delicate eyebrows and proudly pouted her lips. Full of girlish arrogance, she said, "Uncle, I already said my name is Chanel. Are you deaf and didn't you hear? Also, don't you know that the country of Hua Xia doesn't allow women to marry other women?" Chapter 121. Situ Mingze and Zhou Guangyan's faces turned green, while Yang Chun and Rose smiled. "Zhou Dongsheng. Oh no." Miss Chanel's stunning appearance and perfect performance made the two originally aggressive big shots feel like deflated balloons, unable to do anything even if they had the energy to do so. Be **starred. Are you trying to anger me to death?" Zhou Guangyan pointed at Chanel. Get out of here immediately. Don't embarrass me." "Father, why are you so agitated? Tonight is so beautiful. I still want to dance with Mr. Yang Chun." Chanel pouted as she felt wronged. The guests present couldn't help but smile. Although they didn't dare to be too rash, since Zhou Guangyan was present, the scene in front of them was too dramatic. Who would have thought that the mafia's crown prince would appear in female clothing, and even show off his shyness? Qiangwei looked at Yang Cheng with a strange gaze and asked softly, "Hubby, don't tell me that you and Zhou Dongsheng really have. What are you thinking about?" Yang Cheng's expression changed, and he immediately denied. "How would I know that he suddenly became like this? I only met him once." Only then did Qiangwei feel relieved and patted her chest. "If you really dare to like even men, I'll never talk to you again." Obviously, It was acceptable for the man she loved to cheat on other women, but if it was a man who cheated on her, then women would definitely go crazy. Zhou Guangyan strode in front of Chanel, his eyes green, his face dark, and said, "Are you purposely going against your father today? How can you say that? My dear father, don't you want your daughter to be beautiful? You're a man. I gave birth to a son." Zhou Guangyan suddenly roared, causing the surrounding guests to subconsciously take a few steps back. Chanel flirtatiously flipped her blonde bangs. "Whether it's a man or a woman, who knows better than me? If Lord Father insists on proving that I'm not a woman, then I'll have to take off my underwear in front of everyone." As she said that, Chanel cast an electrifying glance at the men and women around her. Under everyone's horrified gazes, she lifted up her fluffy skirt, revealing her well-groomed, slender calves. He really wanted to take off his underwear. But no one moved their eyes away, because Chanel's smooth calves were like a standard runway model's, slender and dazzling like jade, making it hard for people to let go. Be it male or female guests, all of them felt ashamed of themselves at this moment, because they were looking at the legs of a man dressed as a woman, and were even looking forward to him taking off his underwear. Preposterous. Zhou Guangyan finally couldn't take it anymore. He slapped Chanel's left cheek. "Huh!" A red palm print instantly appeared on half of Chanel's face. Only then did she slowly lower the hem of her skirt that had been pulled up to her thighs. She straightened up and reached out to touch the side of her face that had been slapped. She looked at Zhou Guangyan bitterly, and then, like a professional actress, her eyes reddened and tears glistened as she sobbed. "Father, you actually hit me. I'm going to ignore you." After saying that, Chanel turned into a pink cloud, wiped her tears, and quickly ran out of the banquet hall while holding up the hem of her skirt. Although everyone present was shocked by the shocking scene in front of them, Chanel's sudden departure was also baffling to many people. What was this? She just appeared, and she left? Zhou Guangyan's face alternated between green and purple, and he no longer had the indifferent expression from before. After seeing his son run out of the banquet hall, crying like a little girl, Zhou Guangyan cast a meaningful glance at Situ Mingze, who also had a gloomy expression, and loudly said, "I'm not in a good mood today, so I'll go discipline that unfilial son of mine. Everyone, please continue." More than 10 elite bodyguards from Dongxing immediately surrounded Zhou Guangyan, and the group of people majestically left the banquet hall. After a breath's time, the Zhou father and son disappeared without a trace. Many of the guests in the banquet hall sighed, but most of them felt that they had watched a good show. Yang Cheng didn't know if Zhou Dongcheng did this on purpose or if it was a coincidence, but the current situation was a lot more relaxed. After all, Situ Mingze was the only one left, so they didn't have to worry too much about Dongxing's power. Situ Mingze was obviously aware of this point, but the decades of trials and tribulations had already made this astute man not too shaken. A pair of dark eyes looked at Xiang Wei and Yang Cheng and said, "Although Mr. Zhou has left, our conversation will continue. I believe that everyone here should be very happy to see the Situ and Zhou families tie the knot, right?" This question seemed to be directed at all the guests present, but all the guests unanimously chose to keep their mouths shut and lowered their heads. Situ Mingze didn't feel awkward and continued to say, "My daughter, don't you want us father and daughter to have a good home? I've already said it very clearly. President Situ's good intentions should be kept for yourself. Miss Chanel is a beauty." Qiang Wei smiled faintly. "I'm also very surprised about young Master Zhou's matter." Situ Mingze wasn't angered by Qiang Wei. He sighed and said, "I believe that young Master Zhou is just a little playful. It's hard for young people to avoid making mistakes. This is the same as you. If you make a mistake, it's fine as long as you correct it, but if you continue to persist in going about things the wrong way, it's not a good thing. What if I like being stubborn?" Qiang Wei smiled brightly. "Then I'll help you regret it." Situ Mingze's expression darkened, and he gestured to the robust man who had been following closely behind him without saying a word. This person was the newly promoted West Union Society's most popular person, Zhang Hu. Zhang Hu nodded in understanding and shouted towards the guests present, "Mr. Zhou will leave first. Tonight's banquet will end here." Of course, if everyone wants to stay and watch the next performance, we'll be more than happy to. After saying that, Zhang Hu's face cracked into a sinister smile. The guests immediately became a pot of porridge. How could they not know what this so-called performance was? They were originally here to join in on the fun. How could they dare to stay any longer? They swarmed towards the main entrance like a swarm of bees. In the blink of an eye, the large hall was brightly lit, but it was empty, leaving only the West Union Society's group, as well as Yang Cheng, Chiang Wei, and the other two. Xiao Zhao, who was wearing a waiter's uniform, had already run to Chiang Wei's side. He had an indignant expression as if he was facing death unflinchingly. It was obvious that the young man understood that the situation in front of him wasn't optimistic. As for Chen Rong, she had long since been frightened by the scene that had unfolded before her. The innocent girl had never thought that there would be such a group of people, such a circle of life. Although she didn't know what would happen next, the girl still nervously gripped the corner of her skirt. The few big shots of West Union Society brought a group of brothers that had rushed in from outside, their faces full of smiles as they surrounded Chiang Wei's group of four. After fighting for so long, tonight would be a perfect ending. For them, it couldn't be denied that this was good news. Situ Mingze and Chiang Wei, this pair of father and daughter, quietly looked at each other, their gazes intersecting with too many meanings. "How long have you been setting up this trap?" Chiang Wei asked. Situ Mingze received a freshly cut and lit cigar from one of his subordinates. He took a puff to stabilize his mood, then said, "Actually, from the very beginning, I have been in contact with Mr. Zhou. We both appreciate each other's talents. It's birds of a feather." Chiang Wei sneered. Zhou Guangyan first expanded his wealth by dealing drugs and human trafficking with foreigners. The things that you've done in these past few years, compared to him, are not inferior at all. TSK. How can you say that? Situ Mingze shook his head. "Daughter, I only have you as my only daughter. That's why I'm saying this to you. Whatever business you do, you should have the appearance of doing that business. As a gangster, if you don't resell drugs and firearms, then you're not qualified. As for the human trafficking you mentioned, you and I were willing. I was just doing you a favor. You can't blame me. Do you know why you lost?" Situ Mingze held the cigar in his mouth and asked with the attitude of a victor. Without waiting for Chiang Wei to reply, Situ Mingze widened his eyes and said, "I lost because of my humanity. Humanity needs to be a little bit, but too much isn't good. You think that dealing in drugs and human trafficking is inhumane, a scourge of the world, but if no one buys it, why should I sell it? If no one sells it, what about the people who buy it? Think about everything from a different perspective, then you won't be stuck in a dead end." Situ Mingze paced back and forth, as if he was a professor explaining an important topic to the audience. "When you betrayed me, you said that I was a beast. You want to draw a clear line between us. Did I refute?" "No, I didn't refute." "Why?" "Because I'm a beast. To hell with humanity." Situ Mingze threw the Cuban cigar in his hand onto the floor and fiercely stomped on it, turning it into a pile of mud. Then he raised his head and laughed strangely. "Look, humanity is such a useless thing. Just one stomp and it's gone. Today's banquet was something that I discussed with Brother Zhou. If you didn't come, it would be openly declaring war with us. Actually, you didn't have to come, because sooner or later we would go to war, but for the sake of your subordinates, you would definitely take the risk and come. Also, you wouldn't bring anyone. Why? Because you were afraid that they would all be sacrificed. Look, you have so much humanity, but is your humanity useful? Didn't you just give yourself away?" "That was my choice. I don't need you to lecture me," Chiang Wei said indifferently. Situ Mingze snorted and laughed. "I know. You must be guessing. Such an obvious Hongmen banquet. If I really did what everyone thinks and used such an opportunity to kill you, killing my own daughter, how tasteless would that be? How tasteless would it be to do such a thing? I, Situ Mingze, have been around for so many years. I could be considered a person with status in Zhonghai. I definitely wouldn't do that. But I will do it. I will do it. Beasts don't care about so many rules. I'm not afraid of losing face. I don't even care about humanity. What do I care about?" Chiang Wei looked at him with a bit of pity. What a pity I didn't think that my opponent was already not human. What you should regret is that half of the blood in your body was left for you by this beast. Situ Ming's tone gradually became higher. His eyes were like two sharp blades staring straight at Xiang Wei. Today, you can choose to listen to me obediently from now on, or I will personally send my daughter on her way. After saying that, Situ Mingza slowly took a Rolock pistol from behind his back and aimed the black muzzle at Xiang Wei's proud head. Chapter 122. The scene instantly became so cold that it was suffocating. Anyone who saw a life on the line would become nervous. Xiang Wei acted as if she didn't see the gun in front of her that could explode at any moment and calmly said, "What if I don't want to listen to you, and I don't want you to send me on my way?" "Impossible. I didn't design a third option." Situ Mingza grinned. His eyes were like a hawk staring at a rabbit. "I'll help you design it." Xiang Wei smiled sweetly, like a playful and charming princess, but also like a naughty girl who did something bad. As soon as she finished speaking, the baldy Zhang, who was standing behind Situ Mingza, with a calm expression, suddenly pulled out a Browning pistol. Similarly, he pointed the black muzzle at Situ Mingza. Situ Mingza felt a chill on the back of his head. The cold touch told him what it was. "Zhang Hu, Tiger, you're courting death. Bastard, what are you doing?" The West Union Society members present couldn't believe this dramatic scene. Zhang Hu's sudden betrayal caught them off guard. This wasn't Zhang Hu's first time doing this. The first time was when he pointed a gun at the former boss Chun Dihai's head and risked his life to fire it. In the end, he became the boss of Chun Dihai's territory. This was the second time, but he directly upgraded to pointing a gun at the head of the West Union Society's president. As the saying goes, practice makes perfect. This time, Zhang Hu was even more steady. He released the safety and laughed at the surrounding people. "A bunch of idiots. I've always listened to Miss Xiang Wei's orders. What do you think I'm doing?" The surrounding West Union Society members were all stunned. They didn't understand what was happening. "Tiger, Chun Dihai was actually killed by your betrayal, wasn't it?" Situ Mingza, who had the gun pointed at his head, didn't panic. His face sunk like water, and he asked calmly. "That's right." Zhang Hu widened his eyes and said, "I've always been unhappy with that bastard father and son. There's nothing wrong with getting rid of them and relying on Miss Xiang Wei." "I knew it." Situ Mingza chuckled. How could there really be someone capable of destroying that fox Chun Dihai's lair by himself? Only a traitor would make sense. It turned out that Situ Mingza had never believed the rumor that a mysterious person had single-handedly destroyed Chun Dihai's nest. Yang Cheng, who was quietly watching the situation unfold, rubbed his nose and secretly smiled. On the side, one of the big shots, the smoking pipe man, Little Smoke Bro, already disliked Zhang Hu. At this moment, he scolded him fiercely. "Mother asterisk cur. Tiger, are you a man or not? You can even do something like betraying your master. Forget about killing that old fox Chun Dihai, but if you dare to touch the president, I'll chop you into minced meat and feed you to the dogs." "I, Zhang Hu, haven't studied for many years. I'm not cultured and don't know any great principles. But at the very least, I've read about the 3 kingdoms. I don't care about hypocritical masters. This world is one where the strong prey on the weak. I know what I'm doing, and I don't need you to teach me." Zhang Hu wasn't afraid in the slightest. He had already risked his life once before. No matter how great the pressure was, it wasn't difficult for him to resist. Another fat, big shot scolded him. "Tiger, are you blind? Open your eyes wide, and look, it's all our brothers inside and out. Even if you hold the president hostage, you and that bitch Xiang Wei shouldn't even think about leaving here tonight." The few big shots immediately jeered, and all kinds of vulgar curses were unceasing. At the same time, all the other West Union Society people also pulled out their pistols and aimed at Zhang Hu, Yang Cheng, and Xiang Wei. Dozens of pistols aimed at them made the atmosphere of the entire venue seem heavy. An invisible pressure filled the air. Almost everyone's heartbeat was already speeding up, and the sound of their breathing also became cautious. There were at least 7 or 8 pistols aimed at Zhang Hu's head, but the baldy didn't have much of a reaction. He grinned and said, "Do you think you're the only ones with so many people? Why don't you think about who set up the 20-something brothers outside the elk park tonight? The few big shots were shocked because they just remembered that this security mission was given to Zhang Hu. What was even more ironic was that the one who gave this mission to Zhang Hu was Situ Mingze, who is currently being pointed at by Zhang Hu. It was because of Zhang Hu's recent outstanding performance. And, as a form of respect, it could also be said that it was to make Zhang Hu more loyal. But now, sure enough, after Zhang Hu whistled, 20-something men in black sunglasses and black clothes rushed in from the main entrance of the venue. They immediately scattered to every corner and aimed their guns at the other big shots in the venue. Like this, the situation became more and more tense. Situ Mingze pointed his gun at Xiang Wei. Zhang Hu aimed at Situ Mingze, and the other West Union Society big shots and a few followers aimed at Zhang Hu and Xiang Wei. Outside, there were another 20-something well-trained bodyguards aiming their guns at the West Union Society people. The arrow was knocked on the bowstring. Good move. It seems like Zhang Hu has been a chess piece for a long time. Presumably, the territories that Zhang Hu collected recently were all deliberately given to him, right? Situ Mingze asked with a sinister smile. Xiang Wei calmly nodded. That's right, your territory is decreasing at twice the speed, and after tonight, you might not have any territory at all. That's not necessarily true. In the current situation, if I pull the trigger, then both you and I will die, and the Western region cake will not belong to you. Situ Mingze said, then according to what you said, shouldn't we put down our guns and then peacefully separate from here and continue to compete in the future? Xiang Wei smiled. In reality, the final goal of tonight's plan was to make Situ Mingze unable to do anything to her. Zhang Hu's exposure was something that would happen sooner or later, and what he wanted to do was basically complete. In the future, even if he had a falling out with West Union Society, with Red Thorn Society's positive power, he would not be too afraid. As for Situ Mingze and Dongxing's alliance, after tonight, Xiang Wei would not be afraid. Not to mention that the Zhou father and son would not be used as weapons. After the appearance of Zhang Hu, this great traitor, the other West Union Society members would definitely feel that they were in imminent danger, and there would be a rift between them, so much so that they would be even more vigilant against Situ Mingze. At that time, West Union Society would be even less of a threat. Situ Mingze's previously cold and hazy face suddenly revealed a relaxed smile. Zhang Hu, Xiang Wei, do you think I'm stupid? The sudden change in mood made Zhang Hu and Xiang Wei stare blankly for a moment. Situ Mingze continued, do you really think I'm so slow-witted, waiting for you to toy with me, forcing me to let you go? What do you mean? Zhang Hu felt Situ Mingze's provocation. His gun slightly trembled. He had a bad premonition. He felt uneasy. The corner of Situ Mingze's mouth revealed a strange smile. He lightly sighed and said, Zhang Hu, look at the brothers you brought. Just who are they pointing their guns at? Zhang Hu was startled. A drop of cold sweat slid down his forehead. His back also began to feel cold. His eyes swept around. His heart was filled with fear. The 20 black, clothed bodyguard guns all shifted, aimed at himself, Xiang Wei, and the other two people. Careful, Xiang Wei suddenly warned, but she was still half a beat too late. Situ Mingze took advantage of Zhang Hu looking at the situation around him, slightly stunned. In an instant his body leaned forward, turned around, and elbowed Zhang Hu's lower jaw. Ayo, Zhang Hu growled. In pain he wanted to raise his gun, but he did not expect that Situ Mingze's knee would already be raised, directly piercing Zhang Hu's waist. The bald man felt as if he was struck by lightning. Both his legs went soft. His back was hit by Situ Mingze's elbow. His whole body fell to the ground. The two Situ Mingze bodyguards immediately kicked away Zhang Hu's gun, then fiercely tied Zhang Hu's hands behind his back, using their feet to step on Zhang Hu's body. In a moment of absent-mindedness, Zhang Hu was forced to the ground, unable to move. Zhang Hu continuously struggled, but no matter how much strength he had, he could not resist the power of the two strong bodyguards. He could only fiercely raise his eyes to look at the leisurely Situ Mingze with a red face. Such a dramatic scene once again occurred, The big shots of West Union society immediately cheered, loudly praising their president's courage and such. Qiang Wei's face finally turned ugly, because at this moment, all the guns on the scene were pointed at the four of them. Little Zhao and Chun Rong were already trembling, especially Chun Rong. Her small face was deathly pale, without a trace of blood. Not fainting was the limit this girl could do. Yang Cheng frowned. He did not feel any danger because of this scene. He only felt a bit helpless and worried. Seems like I need to make an exception tonight. An exception that hasn't been broken for almost a year. Although my skills aren't that great, Qiang Wei is still my daughter. As her father, I still have some good sports genes. Situ Mingze seemed to be doing some warm-up exercises. He shook his head, waved his arms, did some chest stretching exercises, looked at Zhang Hu on the ground, and sighed. Tiger, are you very unwilling? Unwilling to accept why your brothers would betray you? Zhang Hu did not reply. He only stared fiercely at Situ Mingze. Actually, this question is very simple. Situ Mingze answered his own question, smiled weirdly, and said, because they are not your people. As he said that, Situ Mingze had the 20 bodyguards take off their sunglasses. He proudly clapped his hands and laughed. How is it? You don't know a single one of them? That's right, because they're all my people. The 20 bodyguards you chose, I know they're all your confidants. So, I already helped you send them to the Yellow Springs Road. When Zhang Hu heard this, tears immediately flowed out of his eyes. Even when he was captured, he did not feel this pain. He did not expect that the most loyal brothers he brought would be secretly swapped by Situ Mingze, and all of them would be brutally murdered. Traitors, they will receive the consequences that traitors deserve. From the day you betrayed Chindi Hai, you should have completely betrayed him instead of being a spy in my territory, Situ Mingze said loudly. You think you are very smart. Do you think I am really that stupid after being the president of the West Union Society for so many years? I kept you alive just to find more potential traitors. Well, now I've achieved my goal, and you've gloriously completed your mission. You've made my precious daughter, Rose, obediently come here, ready to eat the bullet I'm going to give her. You're so naive to think that I'll let you play infernal affairs. Do you think everyone is as muddle-headed as Chindi Hai? You must have watched too many movies. Situ Mingze used all his strength to kick Zhang Hu's thigh, causing Zhang Hu's veins to bulge, but he could only endure the humiliation. Taking a deep breath, Situ Mingze, who was just a devil, once again returned to being an elegant gentleman, revealed a kind smile, and turned to face Qiang Wei. All right, my dear daughter, tell Daddy, what is your choice now? Chapter 123. There were always too many ups and downs in life, but when a wonderful moment arrived, it would immediately be ruthlessly stripped away, beaten back to its original state, or even more unbearable than before. This was not something an ordinary person could endure, not to mention, this unbearable was betraying their own soul, and even death. Qiang Wei felt the surrounding air become much colder. It was reasonable to say that the air conditioning would not be turned on during this season, but she really felt a bone-piercing cold. For the first time, Qiang Wei felt a bit of admiration for her father, who she had always refused to acknowledge. This guy was really not simple. Situ Mingze wasn't in a hurry. He looked at her with a smile that wasn't a smile, patiently waiting for an answer. The surrounding West Union Society's big shots and bodyguards naturally weren't in a hurry. They grinned and gradually surrounded Rose and the other 3 people within a 30 to 40 square meter radius. As long as Situ Mingze gave the order, everyone would raise the guns in their hands and shoot the 4 of them full of hornets' nest. Qiang Wei looked at the man beside her. At this time, only this man still maintained a casual smile, as if everything in front of him had nothing to do with him. He was just an onlooker, the most unremarkable passerby in the movie. I seem to have failed. Qiang Wei bitterly smiled. She knew that Yang Cheng was very powerful, but the situation in front of her was not a situation where a single person could reverse the situation. Even if Yang Cheng had 3 heads and 6 arms, it would still be impossible for him to protect the 3 of them under the siege of 30 or 40 guns, right? Yang Cheng comfortingly held Qiang Wei's cold hands, passing a trace of warmth to the woman. You failed, but after all, the opponent is older than you. When you reach his age, you will definitely have a better future than him. Can I still live to that age? Qiang Wei muttered to herself. Of course. Yang Cheng straightforwardly laughed. I will absolutely not allow you to leave me. Qiang Wei's moist eyes stared at Yang Cheng for a moment. As if she had made up her mind, she turned to Situ Mingze and said, I can't die today. So you're saying that you should listen to me? Situ Mingze raised a victorious smile, and the maliciousness in his eyes increased. As long as Qiang Wei became a puppet, there would be many things he could do. His ambition would greatly expand. Qiang Wei took a deep breath. This decision could save her life, but it might really ruin her life. But if she didn't do that, then the chance to save Yang Cheng and the others would be completely gone. He would not allow himself to leave him, and he would not let himself die because of his negligence. Qiang Wei steeled her heart and was about to nod. Wait. Yang Cheng raised his hands and hurriedly cried out as if he'd seen a supernatural event. He felt slightly baffled as he stretched out his hand to pinch Qiang Wei's tender face and asked with a puzzled expression, Darling Qiang Wei, what are you trying to say? Why do you have to admit defeat and listen to him? Qiang Wei's eyes turned red and she bitterly smiled. I'm sorry. I can't just watch you die with me in front of my eyes. Perhaps admitting defeat is the best way. Yang Cheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that this silly woman thought he was powerless and wanted to sacrifice herself in exchange for their lives. It was really touching and funny at the same time. Although, according to common sense, this was indeed a dead end, but there were always exceptions to everything. What a cute fool. I said that you won't leave me, not that I'm asking you to die with me. It's even more impossible for you to admit defeat and listen to him, Yang Cheng said with a smile as he caressed Rose's cheeks. Qiang Wei blinked in confusion. Then what do you mean? If I don't admit defeat, he won't let any of us go. Yang Cheng cleared his throat and said, You've lost, but I haven't. This time, Qiang Wei was stunned for a moment. Then, a strange look appeared in her eyes. She felt that Yang Cheng didn't seem to be joking. After living together for more than half a year, along with the deepening of their relationship, she gradually understood some of this man's thoughts. She could feel the truth in Yang Cheng's words. Could it be that he really has a way? This thought made even Qiang Wei feel terrified. Zhang Hu, who had been pressed to the ground, heard Yang Cheng's words. He reluctantly raised his eyes and looked at the man who had really made him walk on this road. Seeing his indifferent expression, Zhang Hu's disheartened expression changed little by little, and his eyes lit up with two imperceptible flames of excitement. Situ Mingze was already a bit impatient. He felt that the Yang Cheng in front of him was just like a clown speaking nonsense. He sneered and said, Little brother, you are called Yang Cheng, right? It seems that your martial arts are not bad to be able to make my daughter so dead set on you and admit defeat to me. However, it seems like your brain is not very good. You don't seem to understand what it feels like to be shot, right? Yang Cheng calmly patted Qiang Wei's palm and softly said, Don't worry, don't move. Then he slowly turned around and smiled at Situ Mingze. My martial arts are indeed not bad, but it's a pity that you are a man, and an old man at that, so you won't be able to experience it. You have quite the guts, but in this kind of situation, you won't be able to change anything. If you want to live, then don't influence my daughter's decision. Situ Mingze had the impulse to immediately open fire and kill Yang Cheng. But after discovering that Qiang Wei cared about Yang Cheng so much, he thought that if he wanted to control Qiang Wei in the future, it would be best to keep this young man as a hostage. Yang Cheng turned a deaf ear to Situ Mingze's words. Minding his own business, he looked around, roughly counted the number of people, and muttered to himself, 41, a little too many. Seems like I'll have to use some extreme methods. After he finished speaking, Yang Cheng slowly lowered his body and sat on the floor. He then reached out his hand to take off his shiny brand new leather shoes, which he rarely wore. He then took off his pair of white socks and stuffed them into his shoes. Immediately after, Yang Cheng, in front of everyone's eyes, rolled up his trousers until they reached his calves. When the barefooted Yang Cheng stood up again, Everyone present thought that he had gone crazy. Was this guy's brain made of dog shit? In this life and death situation, why did he take off his shoes, take off his socks, and roll up his trousers? Was he going to work in the fields? In fact, Yang Chung still hadn't finished. After giving an embarrassed smile to the people around him, Yang Chung took off his suit and then took off his shirt, leaving only a white undershirt on. He took off a pile of clothes, shoes, and socks and stuffed them into the arms of the dumbstruck little Zhao and said, "Help me take care of them. Don't drop them. I still have to wear them later." Xiang Wei, little Zhao, and Chen Rong all looked at him, not understanding what was going on. Situ Mingze finally realized that he couldn't see through what this young man was trying to do. This kind of situation that wasn't under his control made him very uncomfortable. He couldn't help but coldly say, "What are you doing?" Yang Chung jumped in place, stretched his muscles, and said, "Nothing, I just don't want her blood to stain my clothes, that's all. I like to be clean." After saying this, he gave a kind smile. This brat's brain must be fried. Haha, what is he saying? I think he's scared out of his wits. A pretty boy will always be a pretty boy, completely useless. Several of the West Union Society's big shots all felt that Yang Chung had become an idiot. His words were completely illogical. Situ Mingze was so angry that he started laughing. Regardless of whether Yang Chung was crazy or not, he was determined to not let Yang Chung live. "Oh, what method do you have to make our brothers here bleed?" Situ Mingze teasingly looked at Yang Chung and asked, as if he was looking at a little puppy that was jumping around alone. The smile on Yang Cheng's face gradually disappeared, and what replaced it was a somewhat desolate face, without sorrow or joy, as if it was completely empty. What was even more strange was that Yang Cheng's pupils gradually changed from dark brown to a bewitching scarlet red. The 40 or so West Union Society members surrounding them all simultaneously felt a wave of chilliness. This was not an ordinary cold aura. This kind of indescribable cold made everyone immediately think of one thing: death. Not only the West Union Society members, even the three people behind Yang Chung, Xiang Wei, and the other two also felt an abnormal bone-chilling cold, as if Yang Chung, who was standing in front of them, had turned into the eye of a violent storm. With him as the center, an invisible gloominess pervaded the entire place. The word lifeless truly displayed its most direct meaning. Many of the big shots in the underworld felt that they were already in an ancient battlefield where corpses were wrapped in horsehide. Bloody heads, broken legs, disemboweled horses, piles of corpses with internal organs flying everywhere, and the unbearably viscous wilderness dyed red with blood. This kind of imagination was a bit absurd, but many people swallowed with difficulty as they imagined this cruel scene. And Xiang Wei, who was the most familiar with Yang Chung, after the first moment of shock, for some reason her heart ached. Looking at the back of the man who seemed to be submerged in darkness, Xiang Wei felt as if her heart was ruthlessly sliced open by a sharp knife. All kinds of ruthlessness, austere, darkness, and savagery surged into the depths of her heart, causing her heart to almost stop beating, making it hard for her to breathe, until she was forced into a desolate wilderness, into a bone-chilling place, unable to feel the slightest bit of warmth. Is this how he feels? Hot tears instantly gushed out from Xiang Wei's eyes. The other people present did not have the same feelings as Xiang Wei. They only felt that this place had suddenly become unfamiliar, because the man in front of them was emitting a terrifying aura, causing their bodies to feel numb and stiff. Even though they knew that this was something similar to an illusion, it was still difficult for them to break free from the shackles of nothingness. At this moment, even breathing became a heavy burden for everyone. The oppressive feeling in their hearts was like a great flood, swallowing up everyone's spirit. Situ Mingze's eyes were wide open. His eyeballs were already bloodshot. He was facing Yang Chung, so he could feel the emptiness in Yang Cheng's eyes. This emptiness made Situ Mingze feel weak. The man in front of him was not a human. In front of him, he was like an ant facing a human. Even if an ant took a weapon and gathered together, it would not be able to resist the foot of a human stepping on it. Situ Mings's breathing became hurried. He wanted to shout out loud, to ask clearly who this absolutely abnormal fellow was. But he could not muster the strength, nor could he muster the courage. For the first time in his life, Situ Mingza was scared to the point of wanting to cry. But at this time, Yang Cheng moved. Yang Cheng's movements were very nimble, not fast nor slow. The 10 steps distance between him and Situ Mingza was crossed in 3 seconds. His scarlet eyes, without the slightest trace of emotion, met Situ Mingza's gaze. Yang Cheng stretched out his hand and slapped the back of Situ Mingza's neck. Situ Mingza's eyes widened, as if he had forgotten to resist. After being slapped, he closed his eyes and directly fainted on the ground. This fainting was like a shot of adrenaline for the other West Union Society members. They finally felt the danger in front of them and began to raise the guns in their hands in a flurry, trying to aim at Yang Cheng. But when everyone instinctively reacted and wanted to attack Yang Cheng's speed suddenly became completely different from before. Almost like an afterimage, after the closest 2 bodyguards who were subduing Zhang, who were sent flying by Yang Cheng's 2 palms. The fat boss and his 2 underlings were also sent flying by Yang Cheng's 2 roundhouse kicks. Pung pung. A few muffled sounds of hitting the hall's pillars had not yet dissipated. Yang Cheng's figure had already appeared in the middle of another group of people. Yang Cheng's knife-like hand turned into a steel knife. After falling down on the heads of the 2 bodyguards, it actually cut through them like a hot knife cutting through cheese. The splattering of flesh and blood was enough to make these underworld gangsters vomit. But Yang Cheng was not affected in the slightest. His hands and feet were like dancing in the crowd. Every movement would bring about streaks of blood and incessant screams. The bodyguards who relied on their guns couldn't imagine how they would face the enemy when they couldn't aim their guns at the target. When they only had a chance to aim at Yang Cheng, it was when Yang Cheng's indestructible metallic body hit their bodies. Little Zhao, who was holding Yang Chen's clothes, finally understood Yang Chen's intention in taking off these clothes, because when he realized what this blood-red color was, he already felt nauseous to the point of wanting to vomit. Chen Rong was even more unbearable. Upon smelling the blood, the young lady directly fainted. Even Xiang Wei, who had the weakest reaction in the beginning, tried to endure it, but in the end, she closed her eyes, unable to look anymore. When the remaining 5 West Union Society members were fearfully facing the approaching Yang Cheng, one of them finally thought of a way to save himself. He used his trembling arm to raise his gun and tried to aim at Xiang Wei and the other 2. But he still underestimated Yang Cheng's current speed. Before he could raise his hand, Yang Cheng's knife-like hand already landed on his arm. Crack, crack. The sound of bones breaking was surprisingly clear when the man realized the pain. His arm that was holding the gun had already dropped to the ground. The 5 people didn't wait for Yang Cheng to make another move. Directly fainting from the terrifying scene in front of them, at this moment, everything froze. In a huge venue, the lights were still bright, but the bright and clean floor at this moment had become a charaba, scattered limbs, flowing dark red blood, all kinds of miserable and unwilling faces. And the cause of all this was only a lonely figure standing in the center of the venue. Zhang, who had been lying on the ground the whole time, was the only spectator who had the courage to witness everything. He didn't dare to get up because both of his legs had already gone limp as if he had no bones. Xiang Wei, who had her eyes tightly shut, heard the silence. Finally carefully opened her eyes. In her sparkling eyes, Xiang Wei saw the man who was still standing. At the same time, she also saw the men lying everywhere on the ground. He won. He won. With over 40 people's gun holes on a few dozen square meters of ground, this man used a few breaths of time to defeat all the enemies. Xiang Wei already couldn't care about the tragic scene in front of her, because at this moment, she only had one thought, and that was to rush over and give Yang Cheng a passionate hug. With her long skirt dragging on the ground, Xiang Wei also couldn't care about the blood all over the ground, ran all the way to the back of Yang Cheng, hugged the back of Yang Cheng, and cried tears of joy. "Hubby, you really did it." After surviving a disaster, Xiang Wei couldn't care about the face of the mafia boss. She just wanted to hug the man and cry happily. But Yang Chung didn't turn around, still standing in the same place, but his body began to tremble. Qiang Wei noticed Yang Cheng's abnormality, nervously walked to the opposite side of Yang Cheng. When she saw Yang Cheng's face at the moment, she was so scared that her beautiful face turned pale. At this moment, the scarlet in Yang Cheng's eyes had faded, returning to normal color. But his eyes seemed dull, his whole face was ashen, and from time to time, there would be a morbid red and white color. Cold sweat constantly dripped from Yang Cheng's forehead, and his two lips had lost their color like white paper. Yang Cheng's whole body seemed to have walked out of the water, soaked in sweat, and still trembling more and more violently. Trembling. "Hubby, what's wrong with you?" Qiang Wei was more afraid than when she was blocked by the gun hole. She couldn't imagine what her life would be like without Yang Cheng. But now was obviously not the time to think about these problems. She couldn't watch Yang Cheng go on like this. "Hubby, say something, say something. What's wrong with you? How can I help you?" Qiang Wei cried her heart out, constantly shaking Yang Cheng's arm. Little Zhao and Zhang, who also came back to their senses, although the scene in front of them made their legs go weak, they were more worried about what happened to Yang Cheng. Under Qiang Wei's constant shaking, Yang Cheng finally recovered a bit of consciousness. The veins on his forehead bulged, as if he was enduring an unimaginable pain. His voice was hoarse, and he stuttered, hit, knock, me." Qiang Wei was stunned. Hearing this answer, she hesitated. Quickly, Yang Cheng roared in pain. His eyes rolled back, and his body was almost twitching. Qiang Wei finally couldn't bear to see Yang Cheng go on like this. She clenched her teeth, gathered her strength, and hit the back of Yang Cheng's head. But Yang Cheng's body strength was far beyond Qiang Wei's imagination. Even if Yang Cheng purposely didn't put up any defense and took the initiative to be hit, Qiang Wei's attack still couldn't stimulate Yang Cheng's nerves to the point of making him faint. Qiang Wei clenched her teeth and shouted to Zhang Hu, who rushed over. "Zhang Hu, use all your strength to knock Yang Cheng out quickly." Zhang Hu's face was pale, but he knew the situation was tense, so he could only gather all his courage and use all his strength to hit the back of Yang Cheng's head. Yang Cheng's body was directly hit, and he fell into Qiang Wei's arms. After a muffled groan, he finally fainted. Brother Yang, what happened?" Little Zhao asked nervously, stuttering. Qiang Wei saw that although Yang Cheng was unconscious, the muscles on his face were still knotted, and knew that he was in unbearable pain. She didn't dare to delay any longer, and quickly ordered little Zhao, "You and Zhang, who will take care of the aftermath here. I will immediately take Yang Cheng to the hospital. If you have any urgent matters, don't bother me for the time being." After saying that, ignoring Zhang Hu and little Zhao's bitter faces, Qiang Wei carried Yang Cheng and ran out of the hall. Chapter 124. The pitter-patter of autumn rain gently fell on the surface of the pond in the small courtyard, bringing with it traces of ripples. Two large banana trees gently swayed with the wind, the broad leaves blocking the already dim light, causing a blurry shadow to be imprinted on the floor inside the French glass door. In the early morning, Qiang Wei's bedroom seemed cold and quiet. The bedside lamp with simple patterns was left on all night. Because it was cloudy, the yellow light at the moment was particularly bright. Yang Cheng, who had already changed into a set of blue and white loose linen pajamas, was lying on the bed with his eyes closed, emitting weak but even breathing, but his thick black eyebrows were slightly furrowed. The coffee-colored bedsheet that was like liquid chocolate was extremely wrinkled, as if to tell others how much the man sleeping on the bed last night had done. At this time, the door was quietly pushed open. Qiang Wei, who was carrying a plate of millet porridge and a plate of sweet garlic, had already changed into a milky white silk nightgown. Her beautiful face was full of worry. She gently moved to Yang Cheng's bedside, put down the porridge, and bent down to pull up the thin quilt for Yang Cheng. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Qiang Wei looked at the man, sleeping soundly with a complicated expression. She didn't sleep all night and first took Yang Cheng to the hospital. After the examination, she called a private doctor to come here to treat Yang Cheng. After waiting for Yang Cheng to calm down and confirm that there was no danger, Xiang Wei then went to deal with the aftermath of the banquet. After making a series of important decisions that would affect the future underground structure of the West District, Xiang Wei hurried back to the room and personally took care of Yang Cheng until this morning. This man once again gave her a thorough shock, but at the same time, he also made her feel the gap between them once again. Xiang Wei didn't like this feeling. She had too many questions, but everything had to wait for Yang Cheng to wake up. Just as Xiang Wei was pondering over some complicated images, Yang Cheng, who had his eyes closed, opened them sleepily and let out a long breath. Xiang Wei caught this moment and was pleasantly surprised. She grabbed Yang Cheng's hand and said, "Hubby, you're awake. What time is it now?" Yang Cheng smiled faintly and gave a reassuring look to Xiang Wei. "It's still early. It's only 7 o'clock. Do you want to rest for a while?" Looking at Yang Cheng's pale complexion, Xiang Wei's heart ached, but she forced a smile and said, "You scared me. You suddenly became so weird. I didn't sleep for the whole night." Yang Cheng supported himself with his arms on the bed and sat up. He kissed Xiang Wei's cheek and said, "I'm fine now. What happened after I fainted last night?" Rose saw that Yang Cheng didn't have the intention to explain himself, so she obediently didn't open her mouth to ask. After tidying up a bit, she said, "Yesterday, I brought you to the hospital. After a simple examination, the doctor said that there was nothing special, but you seemed to be especially excited, and your heart was beating rather fast. After you were sedated, you became much calmer. Later, I brought you here and asked my personal doctor to prescribe some sedative medicine for you. You have been sleeping until now. Is that so? I don't remember." Yang Cheng smiled bitterly and touched his forehead. In fact, the only thing he remembered was the intense pain in his brain. He originally thought that after recuperating for a year and living a leisurely life for half a year, even if he was forced to kill a few dozen people, it wouldn't be as hard to control as before. However, he didn't expect that his old illness still hadn't improved. Fortunately, as his strange martial arts continued to improve, he was able to barely control that terrifying berserk emotion. That was why he was knocked out by Xiang Wei, or else Yang Cheng felt a wave of fear. It seems that he was too careless. In the future, he still had to pay attention to keeping his nerves relaxed and mind relaxed. He couldn't overexert himself, or else he wouldn't be able to control his emotions. If he didn't control himself in time, it would be hard to redeem himself. Xiang Wei continued. As for the banquet, only Situ Mingze and his 4 bodyguards survived. I've already imprisoned Situ Mingze. West Union Society is now a mess. Almost all the important people have been killed by you. I've already ordered my subordinates to cooperate with Zhang Hu to reorganize West Union Society. There might be many things to do in the following days, but it won't be long before there won't be 3 words West Union Society in the entire Western District. Right? The funny thing is that old fox Zhou Guangyan, after receiving the news, he took the initiative to congratulate me. He even said that we should get along in the future. Yang Cheng nodded and asked, "Then what do you plan to do with Sitamingza?" Xiang Wei's eyes flashed with a sharp light. After hesitating for a long time, she sighed and said, "I don't know. I'm planning to send him abroad after a while. I'll choose a small European country and give him a sum of money to let him retire." "You're not going to kill him?" Yang Cheng was a little surprised. In his eyes, Xiang Wei clearly had the potential to become the Iron Blood Underworld Queen. Xiang Wei looked at Yang Cheng with a complicated gaze. "If it was before, I would definitely kill him. But now, because of you, I feel that I can't kill him." "Why?" Yang Cheng felt that he wasn't smart enough. Xiang Wei smiled sadly and said, "Actually, one thing he said was right. No matter who he is, human or beast, my body flows with his blood. This fact will never change. He is my father. Although I hate him and look down on him, he and my mother brought me into this world. Without him, there wouldn't be me. I think, no matter what the reason is, a daughter killing her own father is an unforgivable mistake. Just like," Xiang Wei stared at Yang Cheng and said, "just like if we have a child in the future, I really can't imagine how the child could kill you, kill his father. Even as a mother, even if I'm already dead, I'll still be heartbroken in another world." Yang Cheng was startled. Shan Shan smiled and said, "There seems to be no comparison. How can I be the same as Sitamingza? I won't let my children hate me or even want to kill me." Sitamingza didn't want me to hate him and want to kill him from the beginning, Xiang Wei said with hidden bitterness. Yang Cheng was speechless. After thinking for a moment, he said, "It's up to you. As long as you think it's right, it's fine. I'll support you." Xiang Wei smiled sweetly and kissed Yang Cheng's lips. Then, she used her small tongue to draw a cool trace on Yang Cheng's face. Her watery eyes were full of affection. "Husband, thank you. Thank you for giving me everything. There's no need to thank me. I'm just doing what I like to do," Yang Cheng said with deep emotions. "I've decided to tell you a secret." Xiang Wei suddenly made an important decision. Originally, I didn't want to say it for the rest of my life. But now, I feel that hiding that part of the past is irresponsible for our relationship. Yang Cheng frowned and didn't say anything. Xiang Wei took a deep breath and said, "Actually, the reason why I left Situ Mingza and walked on this path is not only because I hate his way of doing things. There are other reasons. Husband, do you know? I look almost exactly the same as my mother when she was young," Xiang Wei said. Yang Cheng nodded. He remembered that Situ Mingza had mentioned this in the bar. When I was still a child, Situ Mingza had already led a large group of West Union Society members to fight in the West District. Every day, he would come home reeking of alcohol and blood. When he was good to us, he was like the best husband and father in the world. He loved my mother very much and would give her anything she wanted. He also loved me very much. Whenever I cried, he would coax me until I laughed. He would even carry me and spin me around on the swing. But whenever he was drunk or killed a lot of people, he would be in a bad mood. It was as if he changed into another person. He was ruthless, cruel, and inhumane. Whenever he came home, he would use the slightest flaw to beat and scold my mother. He would even hit my mother with a wine bottle, and would even do that kind of thing to my mother in front of me. "Wait," Yang Cheng asked doubtfully, "didn't your mother pass away when you were very young?" "That's not true. It's a lie that Situ Mingza and I told together." Xiang Wei smiled bitterly and continued to narrate. "At that time, I was still very young and didn't understand many things in the adult world. But I knew that Situ Mingza was a temperamental lion. If you were by his side, you would never know whether you would live or die in the next moment." At this point, Xiang Wei paused. She seemed to have recalled many things in the past. She rubbed her moist eyes and continued. "Until one day, I heard my mother quarreling with Situ Mingza. At that time, I was already in elementary school. I could understand what they were talking about. My mother had an affair with one of Situ Mingza's subordinates. She even tried to leave this mentally ill man and elope. But Situ Mingza found out and stopped her. That day, Situ Mingza and my mother's quarrel was so loud that it made me feel like the whole building was going to collapse. I hid outside the door and wanted to escape, but I didn't have the strength to leave. In the end, I heard my mother's screams coming from the room. My mother kept calling for help. Her screams scared me silly. But other than crying, I didn't know anything else. After the room quieted down, the door was opened. At that time, Situ Mingza came out and saw me crying in front of the door. He just kicked me away and left without looking back. Xiang Wei bit her red lips and said with a sad smile, "Hubby, do you know? This was the first time I saw a dead person in my life. The one who died was my mother. My mother was kicked and punched by Situ Mingza until her whole body was dyed red with blood. She died at home, died in front of me. Even now, I still have nightmares. When I dream of that scene, I still wake up. Because my mother's eyes were open, I felt like she was looking at me. She seemed to hate me, hate that I didn't go in and stop her. But I was a 10-year-old girl. What could I do?" Yang Cheng quietly listened and didn't say anything. From the time he could remember, other than his name being Yang Cheng, he didn't know anything about a so-called family or so-called parents. So, although Xiang Wei's past was sad, Yang Cheng couldn't truly understand it. He could only listen quietly. Later, when I slowly grew up, Situ Mingza didn't do anything to me. He seemed to have forgotten that he killed my mother, his wife. When he was happy, he still smiled at me. When he was angry, he still beat and scolded me. I lost my mother, but I always convinced myself that it was because my mother betrayed my father that she ended up like that. So, I didn't resist Situmingza. I thought that in his heart, he definitely loved me. Until the day of my 18th birthday, the tears in Xiangwei's eyes gradually dried up. She coldly said, that night, after he and a few uncles celebrated my birthday, we returned home together. He suddenly came to my room and told me a lot of things. It was about my childhood, about his business, about the gang, and about other people's children. At that time, I didn't understand why he said so much, but I kept listening. In the end, he began to talk about his mother, who he had never mentioned before. He said that he missed his mother very much. He regretted that he couldn't control his emotions and killed his mother, but he hoped that I wouldn't blame him because he was in more pain than anyone else. Actually, a lot of things will naturally fade away after a long time. Although I was very sad, and I also had resentment towards him, but he was crying and begging me for forgiveness in front of me. It was really hard for me to blame him. After all, he was my biological father. But Xiangwei's breathing was a bit hurried, but he suddenly said that I was very similar to my mother. It was exactly the same as the first time he saw my mother. He suddenly looked at me with a gaze full of endless desire and aggression. He asked me if I was willing to help him make up for his regret, replace my mother's position, and become the mistress of the West Union Society. He wanted his biological daughter to be his woman. The last words seemed to have used up all of Xiangwei's strength. Xiangwei hung her head and muttered, I don't remember what I was thinking at that time. I just crazily pushed him out of the room and cried the whole night under the blanket. Afterwards, I finally realized that he was beyond help, and I also made the decision to leave him. Yang Cheng didn't expect that there would be such a background. Xiangwei had a father like Situ Mingza, and not walking on the road of no return was indeed extremely fortunate. Seeing Xiangwei's weak body, he reached out and pulled her into his embrace. He patted her soft back, saying it should make you feel a lot better. At least I can help you. A heartless person like me is most suitable to help women share these headaches. Xiangwei laid on Yang Cheng's chest, pursed her lips, and smiled. Yeah, my heart feels much better. No matter how husband sees it, I can already face you with a clear conscience. Actually, you didn't have to hide it from me. It wasn't your fault. You were just a victim. Yang Cheng said indifferently. Xiangwei suddenly struggled to turn around. She raised her head and stared into Yang Cheng's eyes. She was incomparably concerned and asked with a bit of grievance, Then, husband, shouldn't you also tell me a bit about your past? At least, I want to know what happened to you last night. Chapter 125. Xiangwei's sudden question made Yang Cheng unable to react for a moment. When he understood what the question was, Yang Cheng fell silent. It wasn't that he couldn't say it. He had absolute trust in Xiangwei, and there were some things that weren't a big deal to say. It was just that Xiangwei might not understand. Of course, there were some things that absolutely couldn't be said. It would be fine if he said it, but if Xiangwei found out, it would be unimaginable misfortune. Everyone had their own circle of contact, and if they crossed it, they would be breaking the line. Just like in the business world, they would be attacked by the government and factories, and the military would be baptized by the artillery of other countries. If they knew something that they shouldn't know, they wouldn't even know how they died. Under Xiangwei's incomparably expectant gaze, Yang Cheng deliberated over his words and said, Actually, I've never wanted to hide it from you, but there are some things that you definitely won't understand if I say it out loud. I can only tell you the simplest truth. I don't need to know everything. I just want to know why hubby became like that and wanted me to force you to faint. Xiangwei asked eagerly. In fact, the only thing a woman wanted was to know if a man was still in danger. Yang Cheng sorted out his thoughts and said, This should be considered a problem that I fell into when I was a child. If my body does activities that exceed the normal load, for example, last night when I used strength that exceeded my normal physical strength to kill that group of people, the disease will flare up. Or if I suffer too much mental burden, my heart will become irritated and my brain's central nervous system will be a little out of control. Do something out of line. Is there any danger? I've never been in danger, but the people around me might become very dangerous. Yang Cheng laughed self-deprecatingly. Xiang Wei heaved a sigh of relief. She could roughly understand what the so-called out-of-line meant, but as long as Yang Cheng said that he would be fine, that was the best news. Yang Cheng saw the subtle expression on Xiang Wei's face, and his heart felt warm and a little touched. Since ancient times, it was the hardest to accept a beauty's kindness, and he had actually lied to her. Because if he couldn't control this illness of his, in the end, not only would it destroy others, it would also destroy himself. However, there were some things that a man could not tell a woman because women often did a lot of stupid things because their emotions surpassed their rationality. Xiang Wei pondered for a moment and carefully asked, "Do you want to go to the hospital for an in-depth examination? Haven't you undergone treatment abroad before?" Here, he was the only one in the world who had this problem. Apart from him, no one else knew how it happened. What was there to treat? Yang Qing shook his head and smiled. "There's no need for that. I've already had a checkup in the United States. The doctor said that the best way is to live a simple life. I don't have to think too much, and I don't have to do too much. That way, I can live my life in peace. If I want to cure it, the current medical conditions are not enough." "I'm sorry, Xiang Wei baby, but I have to lie to you again," Yang Cheng helplessly thought. Xiang Wei nodded, not really understanding, and didn't force Yang Cheng. Although she felt that Yang Cheng was still hiding a lot from her, she was smart enough to choose to remain silent on some matters. Waking up early in the morning, Yang Cheng also felt a little hungry. He picked up the millet porridge on the bedside table, and after 2 or 3 big mouthfuls, he grinned at Xiang Wei and said, "How can such a small bowl be enough? Go and get another bowl." Xiang Wei regained her charming appearance, rolled her eyes at him, and said, "Don't drink it first. I still have something to show you." "What is it?" Xiang Wei smiled mysteriously. "I found it in situ Ming's study. I sent some people to turn his lair upside down, and sure enough, I found some good things." With that, Xiang Wei walked to the corner of the room, and after lifting up a wooden engraving, she revealed a black safe that was sunken in the wall. Turning the password, the safe opened. There weren't many things inside, only a few oiled paper envelopes, a few CDs, a few USB drives, and SD cards. Xiang Wei took out a USB drive, walked to the desk, and took an open white Apple laptop to the bed. After inserting the USB drive, she opened the contents inside. Yang Cheng took a look, and after the USB drive folder was opened, it was filled with video files and some statistical tables. "What are these?" Yang Cheng asked in puzzlement. Xiang Wei was like a proud little fox. "Husband, why do you think those businessmen and officials are willing to mix with Sitamingza? Because it's profitable? This is the most basic, but if he wants to take the initiative in this situation, Situ Mingza still needs other means." With that, Xiang Wei opened a digital video file on the computer. When the video was played, Yang Cheng suspected that he was seeing things, so he rubbed his eyes and confirmed that the scene in front of him was indeed real. In the video, a naked, middle-aged bald man was lying like a dead pig on top of a beautiful young woman with a slim waist and fat buttocks. The two's lower body was joined together, and the bald man was shaking his fat buttocks, and the beautiful woman was making all kinds of strange and excited roars. Xiang Wei baby, if you want to watch this kind of video, you should choose a more beautiful one, but this kind of video is disgusting, and there's no need to mention it. If you watch too much, you might even have a twisted mind, so don't watch it in the future. Yang Cheng waved his hand, feeling very dissatisfied. How can my woman be so tasteless? At the very least, look at how photoshopped it is. Xiang Wei immediately blushed and angrily said, What do you mean by adding to the fun? You only think about that. I don't mean what you think." Even though she had already had the most intimate contact with Yang Cheng, Xiang Wei's degree of acceptance in this aspect was like that of a young girl. "Then what do you mean?" Xiang Wei immediately closed the video and opened a form file inside. After opening the file, there was a long list of names marked with numbers. Xiang Wei pointed to a number and explained, "Husband, look, this number is the same as the one in the video just now. The people behind it are the Zhonghai Tax Bureau's Deputy Director Guiyan and the Zhonghai West District's Property Bureau's Lu Wanshan's wife, Lu Yun. Although he didn't know much about Huaxia's political structure, Yang Cheng had a rough understanding of the concept of these two people's positions. Both of them had already reached the level of a department head, or even a deputy department head in Zhonghai. Thinking about the content of the video and Xiang Wei's words, Yang Cheng immediately understood the meaning of this video. Situ Mingze was really unscrupulous. To be able to have this kind of information in his hands, he really didn't have to worry about running amok under the government's eyes. Xiang Wei continued, "These videos are all private information of government officials and some important business people. Situ Mingze investigated these people with dirty backgrounds and obtained this evidence. Originally, even if their backgrounds were clean, Situ Mingze deliberately set up a trap to make them do embarrassing things and even took a video. With this information, his gang can be stable and not be crushed by the state." Yang Cheng wasn't a person who liked to gossip, but for Xiang Wei, this information was a good help. It meant that from now on, Xiang Wei would become the mastermind behind these respectable people. However, when the corner of Yang Cheng's eyes inadvertently glanced at a number on the form and the name written behind it, Yang Cheng couldn't help but look at it a few more times. "Husband, what's wrong?" Xiang Wei noticed Yang Cheng's abnormality. Yang Cheng revealed a strange smile and said, "Nothing. I just saw an acquaintance." "An acquaintance?" Xiang Wei curiously blinked her eyes and revealed a rare, cute, confused expression. Morning is the time when a man's fire is at its peak. After watching a rather vulgar video and seeing the beautiful lady in front of him reveal such an unconventional, charming expression, Yang Chen's remnant seed of evil fire from last night instantly ignited the impulse in his dantian. Without waiting for Xiang Wei to continue to ask, Yang Cheng hugged Xiang Wei's body and pulled her to the center of the bed. Ignoring the beauty's exclamation, he wildly lifted up Xiang Wei's silk nightgown, revealing a pair of white as jade legs. The black lace tea back in the center of her beautiful legs revealed a few strands of black grass, especially tempting. Xiang Wei knew what to do next, but they were just talking about business, and suddenly she was like a fat little sheep under a man's body, making her feel excited. She was panting, her eyes were misty, and a red tide appeared on her cheeks. "Husband, you just woke up. Is your body okay?" Although her mind was already confused, Xiang Wei still used her last trace of reason to ask with concern. "It's good to exercise in the morning." Yang Cheng laughed, tore off the last layer of restraint on Xiang Wei, and happily pounced on her. When they came out of Rose Bar, it was almost 8 o'clock. Although he almost lost his mind from the pain last night, Yang Cheng's body didn't suffer any injuries, and he still tormented Xiang Wei until she was weak in bed. From the perspective of a martial arts master like Xiang Wei, it was impossible for a normal man to make her lose all her strength because of a man and a woman. From this, it could be seen how strong Yang Cheng's attacks were. Because he knew he would be late for work, Yang Cheng wasn't in a hurry to drive. After leisurely buying breakfast from the breakfast stall, he drove all the way to Yulei International. When he entered the PR department, Yang Cheng didn't receive the usual welcome or protest from the beauties for being late, because Yang Cheng discovered that all the beauties had already rushed to Lu Mingyu's position, laughing and discussing something. No one paid attention to him when he entered the door,